Shabbat shalom to the set apart family of Yah. We are happy to be back. It has been a moment. Shabbat shalom, sis. How are you
Shabbat shalom.
doing?
How are you? I am doing
I'm,
wonderful.
yes, tired because I didn't get to bed till about 3 o'clock this morning. The enemy knew what was coming.
Yes.
He knew.
Mm-hmm.
We want to welcome everyone, all of our brothers and sisters. We're so happy to be back. It's been about 6 weeks. Yeah, as I stated in our invite yesterday, I was led to take a break and to step back because I needed to be poured into. So I kind of pulled back and spent a lot of time with Yah, and the culmination of everything that you will see today will be coming and be birthed from that time that was spent with Yah. There's so many revelations today, so many things that have occurred during this 6 weeks that we've been away. So much to share, and I ask that you be patient with me today through, as I navigate through all of the information. There's so many things that Yah poured into me during this time, and that's why it's important, and I have to learn that, I can't keep going with like the Energizer Bunny,
Yeah.
not taking a break, because pumping out these lessons that normally come on this channel, you guys are getting you're getting some real meat.
Yeah.
Ruach led teachings. And it doesn't just come by somebody just throwing something together. So I needed the time to step away so that I can refuel, so that Yah could pour back into me, so that I can have something to pour back into his people. And so that is a reason for the sabbatical. It wasn't planned. It was just like, okay, you need to stop, because I felt like didn't have anything else to give. And we want this channel to be Ruach led and inspired. Every teaching that you get is coming from him and being led by his Ruach. The title of today's teaching is Send the Sickle and Reap. This is a final harvest and prophetic judgment warning message. During these 6 weeks, it was like the fear of Yah was put back in me. If it wasn't, not as if I fear Yah, but this message is for his people first, for the house of Israel, and because judgment starts with the house, and then also for everyone else. And so from I'm going to be sharing today, this is a time-sensitive message for those of you who are watching this, to not take today's message lightly, but to act. We've done previous teachings where he is calling. He said, I've called, but none have answered. To answer means to return. And so we do have those 12 tribes. We have an almighty one of power to return to. And Yahusha is calling. And will you answer the call after listening to today's teaching? And so a lot of what I have to share today, maybe I'm telling you, the information that you're going to see today, I've had a plethora of emotions and response to what he shared with me. And so I'm excited we'll say excited, but I'm ready to bring forth this message. This is a prophetic message. Okay. This is a prophecy. And I don't always come before you saying that. There were things that I was told. There's things that are coming down the line soon. And we need to be prepared. Yes, there's a lot of things that are going on in the world, but as the body and as a bride, we need to be concerned with being prepared to be a bride.
Yes.
So that we can be presented as a bride without spot or blemish. That's where our focus should be. Not focus on all of the distractions. Yes, we see what's going on and we know the shenanigans, but our focus right now and what I'm telling you and what I'm going to show you and everything that I'm showing you is some of it's going to seem like I'm all over the place. That's why I say be patient with me because it's going to all come together. Everything that I'm presenting from scripture, I'm sharing scripture that the Ruach led me to read during the time that I was in my quiet time, in worship, in praise, in prayer. There were times when I was in prayer, like in the midst of prayer, I was told, you need to go to read this. You need to study this, giving me revelations. Like I can say during these 6 weeks, this is probably the loudest that I have heard the Ruach in my life. He's revealed acts to me, his acts, and he has been communicating with me, not only through Joseph, through my goodly tree, through some things have happened, and I'm just going to be sharing this. So everything that I'm showing you, this is not just something in isolation or just something random. Every scripture, him telling me to study specific Paleo Hebrew letters, all of it has to do with this judgment, prophetic message, a prophecy that I have to come forward and bring. So I'm gonna go ahead, sister. How was your 6 weeks away?
Well rested.
Okay.
Went out of town during last week. Was it week before last? Was able to get a little vacation in. I haven't had a vacation out of town in years, so that was well needed. How was your vacation as well, sis?
It was nice. Just got back on Monday, so it was nice. Spent a week away and just relaxing. I needed it as well. And even while I was on vacation, Yah was still pouring into me, as you will see. I think I had a break as far as resting, but he was still revealing things, even while I was out of town, still revealing things. So, and hopefully I will be able to share some things with you concerning your dreams about you being in the clouds.
Okay.
Not saying that he told me anything,
right. I know what you're saying.
He was just being brought forth in this that was in complete isolation of what you told me, and I think it might give you a clue.
Okay.
And I'll put it that way. So having said that, we're going to go ahead and get started with today's teaching. And so the last teaching that we had was focusing on, and I think this was like June 11th or something like that. We focused on the wilderness. Okay. And we were speaking about coming out of the wilderness and how the wilderness is a temporary place. The wilderness is not a permanent season. And we talked about being still and entering into his rest, which also meant to enter into his harvest. Okay. And so we kind of brought out that the reason why, many and including our forefathers never come out of the wilderness is because of disbelief, because of complaining, because they do not trust, because of disobedience, because of pride, being stubborn and stiff-necked. not having any desire for Yah or the things of him as their shepherd. Our forefathers failed the test. Okay, they delayed, and therefore they never entered into his rest. Okay, they did not be still. Okay, they did not surrender to Yah. They did not trust in the word of Yah. They did not incline their ear to his word. They did not, they were not led by his spirit, and they were not, they didn't listen and wait for instruction. They did what was right in their own eyes. And so as a bride, as we talked about before, the wilderness, and we're all in our wilderness right now. Okay. But though the wilderness is temporary, it is only a place where we're being pruned. It's a place where we're being tested. It's a place where choices are being made, where decisions are being formed. And so as we navigate through today's message, I want you to remember the subtlety of Satan. Okay, I want you to remember how subtle Satan is, because our Adam and Eve, they had a choice to make. Okay, our forefathers, they had a choice to make, and during their time, our forefathers' time of being pruned and the time of being tested, they had a choice. Our forefathers were told to choose this day whom you will serve. Okay. So in the wilderness is not only a place for pruning and testing, but it is also a place where choices are made, where decisions are formed. And so again, I want you to remember this and keep this in mind when you remember the subtlety of Satan. And I want you to make your choice wisely after listening to today's teaching. And so we're going to go ahead and read some excerpts from Numbers 13 and 14. And then I want to bring out something interesting with David while he was in the wilderness and his response while being in the wilderness. So Numbers 13, and Yah spoke to Moses saying, send men for you, and they will spy out the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the sons of Israel. You shall send one man for the tribe of his fathers, one man, every one a leader among them. And by the commands of Yah, Moses sent them from the wilderness of Paran. They were all of them men, heads of the sons of Israel. These were the names of the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land. And Moses called Hosea the son of Nun, Joshua. And Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, and said to them, you go up this way into Negev, and go up into the hills, and you shall see the land, what it is, and the people who are living on it, whether it is strong or feeble, whether it is few or many, and what the land is in which they live, whether the land is good or bad, and what are the cities in which they live, whether in camps or in fortresses. So they're being sent to go spy out the land of Canaan and what the land is, whether it's fat or lean, whether there's wood in it or not. And you shall make yourself strong and shall take of the fruit of the land. And it was the days of the first ripe grapes. And they went up and spied out the land from the wilderness of Zin to Rehob, coming to Hamath. And they came into the valley of Escol and cut down from there a branch and one cluster of grapes. And they carried it on a staff by two, also of the pomegranates and the figs. That place was called the Valley of Escol because of the cluster which the sons of Israel cut from there. So we see that they were able to cut a cluster of grapes. They wanted to take this back with them so that they can report to the people that this is a land that, has grapes. So they basically spying it out to see what resources they have, what's the agriculture like. And so they returned from spying out the land at the end of 40 days. And they went back to Moses and Aaron and the whole congregation of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. And they brought back a report for the whole congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. So they were able to show them the fruitfulness of the land. And they reported to him and said, we came to the land where you sent us, and indeed it is flowing with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. Okay, so they want to show them what the land is producing, what's coming out of this land. And so according to the ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible, milk means fat or choice, meaning also in the online parallel Hebrew Bible, meaning this is a land that is rich and it is flowing with an abundance of fruit. Okay, it has the fat, anything that is fat or choice is the best. Okay, and honey, according to ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible, means thick, sticky, sweet food. So there are abundance of richness and sweet foods and just fruitful. And so they're reporting back the good things that are in this land that Yah is going to take them to, that he promised that he was going to give them. And the people that live in the land are fierce, and the cities are walled up, very great. And also we have seen the children of Anak, a race of giant people in Canaan there. Amalek lived in the land of Negev, and the Hittite and the Jebusites and the Amorite lives in the hill, and the Canaanite is living by the sea and beside the Jordan. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, we will certainly go up and we will seize it, for we can certainly conquer it. Okay. And the men who have gone up with him said, we are not able to go up against the people, for it is stronger. So when it says that Caleb stilled the people, when they find that there were a race of people who were like giants, who were large in stature, of course, the people probably began to rise up against them. And it says that Joshua stilled the people. We talked about to steal means to guide. Okay, it means to rest. He wanted to put them in a place of quiet, a place of rest from their burdens. This was the promised land. This was the land that Yah wanted to bring our people into, a place of quiet, a place where they can rest from their burdens and rest from the work of their enemy, a place where they will be at ease and comfortable. This is where he wanted to take them. It says at the bottom, a guided journey to a place of rest. It says a side of rest. Okay, this is where Yah wanted to take them. And Joshua had to remind the people of the promises of Yah. And he said, we will most certainly go up there. We're not going to fear. We are going to trust in Yah, trust in what his word has said, trust what he has told us. They believe, Joshua believed, and Caleb believed. So he said, we will most certainly go up and we will seize it, for we can certainly conquer it. So he believed, when Yah, he says, I am with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. We know that he followed the children of Israel by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. He was with them. Is Yah before you? Who can be against you? If Yah is for you, if it's you and Yah, you're the majority. Let me say this again. If it's no one but you and Yah against the world, you are the majority. Hallelujah. He says, but the men who had gone up with him replied, we cannot go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. So There were many who did not believe. They did not trust in Yah's word and what he had promised to them. Okay. Didn't trust them at all. Says we cannot go up against the people, for they are stronger than we are. And they sent out an evil report of the land which they had spied out to the sons of Israel, saying, the land into which we passed to spy it out, it is a land eating up the ones living in it. And all the people we saw in its midst were men of stature. And we saw the giants there, the sons of Anak of the giants, and we were in our own eyes as grasshoppers, and so we were in their eyes. So when I looked this up for evil report, this is what it said in context as being used in Numbers 13-32. It says an evil report that they sent out was they spoke ill about the land. Despite the report that Caleb and Joseph gave, despite them coming back with proof that the land was fruitful and seeing all of its richness and in its land that's in abundance, these people that were with them came back and spoke ill of the land. It says that when they gave an evil report, that means they spreaded rumors. So in context, we know that a rumor is false. It's a lie. They defamed and they slandered the land that Yah had sent them, that he said was going to be flowing with milk and honey, meaning it was symbolic for being a land that is fruitful, a land that it has the best, that is fat, that is an abundance of overflowing of resources. They spoke evil. They spread an evil report. They spread lies. False, they told a lie is basically what they did. They were lying. Okay. They lied about the land that Yah promised to give to them. And all the congregation, after hearing this, they didn't listen to Joshua or Caleb's report. They listened to the reports of those who were lying, who gave an evil report. Have you know, sometimes it's always easier for us to believe the bad news instead of the good news. I'm sure we've always been there. And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept during that night. And all the sons of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron. And all the congregation said to them, if only we had died in the land of Egypt, or if even only we had died in this wilderness. Why is Yah bringing us into this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our infants have become a prey. Would it not be better for us to go back to Egypt? So here we go. This is our people right now. We got people putting out videos right now telling our people to pack up, sell your house, quit your job, and go run to Egypt. Can I say this? There's people I know that's done went and moved to Egypt, and they don't went off into Egyptology. They're off into New Age, chakra, witchcraft. Like the people that I know that have gone have completely gone off. And the sad thing is they think that they're deep, that they have, sometimes you can be so deep, and I've said this previous times, that you can deep yourself right out of your salvation so much to the point where you overlook and miss the simplistic things in scripture, things that are milk. You make them be like you turn something that's simple into milk, something that is so simple even a child can understand, and you make it so complex. Try to turn it in. This is when you take simple things of scripture and distort them. Okay. Yah said, I have scattered and I will regather. He has not told any of us to get up and go run to Egypt. I don't care what anybody is telling you. They're listening to a false report, because Yah brought us here as a punishment. He said, I have scattered, and he said, I will regather. He didn't say for us to go get our passports and everybody get up and go move and get land over. He has not told us. Be wary, and this is a warning to those of you who are, I've already had a dream about somebody trying to convince everybody to leave. And in the dream, they were leading people to a place that was not safe. Okay. There's people now that's within the saying they're within the awakening faith that are telling people to sell everything and to go back to Egypt. Do not listen to them. Okay. When they tell you go here, you should say it, don't listen to them. So they're not trusting in the Yah's promises and his word. They are believing the lie. They're believing, and those he said that believe a lie, he said, I'm going to send a strong delusion. You're going to be under a strong delusion so that you can believe a lie is the truth. Many of our people are under a strong delusion right now because they have accepted and take pleasure in the lie over the truth. And this is the reason why they're leaving, and because they don't have a Berean mindset. They don't study to show themselves approved, and all of your revelation, every revelation that you get is coming from somebody else, and you're not being poured into. You need to go harder and seek in the face of Yah and sitting in his presence, because every revelation that you get should not be because you went on YouTube. You have to know Yah for yourself. You have to. Yes, he gives us evangelists, teachers, pastors to edify and build us up. But you have to know Yah for yourself. You have to know the voice of his Ruach HaKodesh for yourself, because anybody can lead you astray. Any of us could be wrong. You have to know him for yourself so that no man, including myself, can deceive you. This is where you have to realize, I am on a journey to meet my man, my husband, Yahusha, and my bridegroom, and I'm not going to allow anybody to cause me to miss this wedding. They're saying, wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt? We're going to go back. Yah has brought them out of Egypt with a mighty hand and outstretched arm, brought them out of slavery and bondage. And now they're saying, we want to go back. And then they said to one another, let us appoint us a leader. So we don't want the leader that Yah has appointed over us. We don't want Moses. We don't want Joshua and Caleb. No, let us appoint a leader. Did he not say in the last days that our people will have itching ears, and we will be seeking people after our own liking? This is what's going on right now. Our people have itchy ears. They cannot receive sound doctrine. Sound doctrine to their ears is like somebody taking their nails and screeching across the chalkboard. They're seeking a pastor who will make them feel comfortable in their sins. These pastors of today are not leading our people to Yahusha. They're not leading him to Yahusha. These pastors of today are leading people on a path that is going to lead them to destruction. And it's really sad to see so many people not having a Berean mindset, just listening to whatever is being said. But these pastors of today, they're taking pieces of scripture to help people to gain more of the world. That is what they're doing. They're not using the word of Yah to draw you closer to seeking a relationship with Yah Yahusha. They're taking pieces of scripture, using it out of context to help people to gain more of the world. That's where we are. These are the leaders that our people want today. And what is being done today is the same that was done before. He said, there's nothing new under the sun. They said to one another, let us appoint a leader. Let us appoint us a leader. We want a leader after our own choosing, and we are going to return to Egypt. So this was a mindset of our people. Yah delivered them from slavery and bondage and their harsh conditions. And they said to each other, to each one to their brother, let us appoint us a leader and return to Egypt. And Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the sons of Israel. So our people, just as they did then, they have a wilderness mentality. Our people have a wilderness mentality. There's nothing new under the sun. What was being done before is being done today. There are many people who are going on YouTube, doing videos, telling people that you need to go back to Egypt, leave, go to another country. Yah has not told anybody to do that. He has not. Our people still have that same wilderness mentality. We don't trust that Yah scatter us here. We don't trust that Yah will regather us. We don't trust that Yah will see about us. Even when he destroyed, cities and towns and countries, when he destroyed them, even within those, he took care of the righteous. He said, well, will you destroy the righteous with the wicked? If there's two, Yah is not going to destroy us with the wicked. Our trust is not in him like it should be. Many of you may be listening to my voice right now, may have that wilderness mentality. If you don't come out of the wilderness, even when I was reading during this 6 weeks, I was led to reread the Songs of Solomon, reading Solomon again and reading about the bride, finally being prepared to come out of the wilderness to meet her bridegroom. You are not going to meet your bridegroom if you're not ready to come out of this wilderness, if you're not prepared. Our people were not prepared, and that's why you look at their dry bones laying on the ground, because they were not prepared. They were not prepared to come out. They were not prepared to go into that promised land. Okay, Yah is not going to put you in the promised land and you have not shown him that you can endure in the wilderness. So many of our people want to be recipients of things that they have not labored for. They want to reap things that they have not sown. This is our people. Okay, they think that doing works and having ministries and all of these things is preparation. But I'm saying this today, do not confuse religious work with the power of Yah. It's not the same. You can be, what's the word I want to say? You can be active and not be productive. So don't confuse activity with productivity, okay? You can be active, but you still can be not producing. And Joshua, the son of Nun, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, and those who spied out the land tore their garments, and they spoke to all the congregation of the sons of Israel, saying, the land into which we pass to spy it out is an exceedingly good land. If Yah has delighted in us, then he will bring us into this land, and he will give it to us, a land which is flowing with milk and honey. So Joshua and Caleb, they're renting their clothes at all of Israel, saying they want to go back to Egypt. And he's saying, look, Yah delights in us. His favor is upon us. This is a lie they're telling you. We spied it out. This is an exceedingly good land. He says, if Yah delights in us, if he is for us, he says he will bring us into this land. He will give it to us. He will give us this land that is flowing with milk and honey. So they believed. This is the reason why only Joshua and Caleb and those who were under the age of 20 were able to go into the land. That's why our forefathers never made it in. And Yah said to Moses, he said, how long will these people despise me? How long will they continue to not believe in me? He said, after all the signs that I have done in their midst, he said, what else do I need to do? You saw what I did, how I brought you out, and you still doubt me? He says, for all the men who are seeing my glory and my miracles, which I have done in Egypt and in the wilderness, he said, they have tried me these 10 times. So 10 is symbolic of the manifestation of Yah. Okay. He said, that's it. You tried me these 10 times and have not listened to my voice. He said, they shall not see the land. They will not enter into my rest. He says, for I have sworn to their fathers, yea, not one of those who provoke me shall see it. So I want to show you something interesting about David when he was in the wilderness, okay, of Judah. David is crying out and praying to Yah. He says, oh Yah, you are my almighty one. I earnestly seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh longs for you, as in a dry and weary land without water. Therefore, I've seen you in the holy place, seeing your power and your glory, for your loving kindness is better than life. My lips give praises to you. So I will bless you while I live. I will lift up my hands in your name. My soul shall be satisfied as with marrow and fatness. My mouth shall praise. My mouth shall praise you with joyful lips. When I remember you upon my bed, I will meditate on you in the night watches, for you have been a help to me, and I will rejoice under the shadow of your wings. My soul is cleaved after you. Your right hand upholds me. David is saying here in verse 6, I cannot even sleep. Your word, when I think of you, when it says in verse 6 on the night watches, meaning at night, it keeps me awake. I can't even go to sleep. I'm up at night meditating on you, Yah. This is what he is saying and praying to Yah while he's in the wilderness, trusting in Yah, praising Yah, blessing Yah, hoping in Yah, believing in Yah while he's in the wilderness. Unlike our forefathers, complaining and distrusting. So what I want to say is, and this is part one, because this is two parts to today's message. Part one is don't go back. Okay, our people wanted to go back to Egypt after he had delivered them, after he had brought them out. And my message today is we're not going back. I'm just, during this 6 weeks, Yah brought me back. He wanted me to kind of reiterate again my dreams that I had, where everyone in the dream, it was like this huge place. I don't know, it was a forum. It was like 2 levels. In the dream, everyone was wearing black. Everyone was wearing all black. And it was like almost like an army of people wearing black. And the medical community were in there. Okay? The medical community, they were in there. And they were all wearing black, not white. Notice when you go to the doctor, they're wearing the white lab coats. Not here, not in my dream. They were all wearing black. And this is the reason why I changed my doctor that I had too. My doctor was in the dream. And he was a Jewish doctor. Or the ones who think they are. You know what I mean when I say that. But Ashkenaz doctor. But he was wearing all black. All of them doctors in the upper level was like, it turned into a doctor's office. And I went to the counter and I was asking for my doctor. Everybody had on black. And I'm like, why is everybody wearing black? And I wanted to know where my doctor was. And they say he's over there in that door. And I went and knocked on the door, and someone came to the door like, what do you want? He's not coming out. And he came out, he had like a tie around his head. There were like women who were dressed like strippers in the back. And then it switched from that to, I mean, there were like hundreds of thousands of people lined up in rows. They were all wearing black, and I heard Luke music playing in the background. That song Doodoo Brown that he came out with. Okay, that song was playing in the background, and everybody was doing that bending, dropping like it's hot dance. And I was like, I have to get out of here. Where am I at? And so as I was going down the steps to get out, to find my way out, someone grabbed me and said, this is the dance we are doing. You want me to show you how to do the dance? And I said, no, I don't want anybody to show me how to do this dance. I'm not doing this dance. And I want to get out of here. And I just remember waking up after that. And then Yah brought me back to the dream where there was a long line at this church, and I heard this music that was bumping, and in the dream, it was like that music that Kanye West came out with, that a lot of people received, and it sounded worldly. And in the dream, I'm like, oh, this music is bumping. So I'm not in the line, but I go to the front of the line to see like who's in here playing this music. And when I got to the front of the line, someone that I know, that I witnessed to a while back, that rejected the word, she came, and I heard, do not enter in. A hand was put across me to do not go in this church. Do not go back in here. I brought you out of here. Do not go back in here. Do not be fooled or deceived by this music that does not glorify me, that is not from me. And I heard, do not go in, or do not enter in, for this is false worship. Because I went to the front after being lured by the music to ask and to inquire about the services. And I don't know why I did, because I'm not going back into a church setting like that. Not that. And the person was, and I heard, and I don't know if it was a ruach or an angel, but I heard a hand was put across me like, do not enter in, for this is false worship that is going in. Do not go back. And so that is my message today to those of you who are listening, to do not go back. Yahushua said in Luke chapter 9, verse 62, he said, no man that puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom. Remember Lot. She looked back. Once Yah brings you out of something and delivers you, don't go back. That is the message. Do not, that he wants you to know. Don't go back to the things that he delivered you from, the things that he set you free from. He set our people free from slavery and bondage. Slavery and bondage for you could be alcohol. Slavery and bondage for you could be drugs. Slavery and bondage to you could be fornication. Slavery and bondage to you could be lying, whatever it is that Yah has set you free from, that he has delivered you from. Do not go back. Do not go back, because there's going to be consequences now for those of you who go back. And that is the strong message that I got, that we are not to go back. Okay. Acceptance of Yah's word. We have to see our people did not accept Yah's word, what he had told them. Okay. They didn't believe that they were going into a promised land. He said, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard what he is planning for us. He said, where I go, my Father's house, there's many mansions. And so do you believe? Do you believe in the coming kingdom? Do you believe that there's a promised land that's waiting for us? Or do you want to go back? Do you want to go back to slavery and bondage? We have to accept the word of Yah. Our people did not accept the word of Yah. That's why they never made it out. Acceptance of Yah's word is accountability. And accountability can sometimes, when people come to you, it can feel like an attack when you're not ready to acknowledge that your behavior is harming others. Their behavior, those who gave that false report, harmed others who listened to them because they never made it out. They never entered into that promised land. And so when someone is coming to you and trying to warn you or using scripture to keep you moving forward on that straight and narrow path, and they don't want you to go back to your old ways, go back to doing the things that you were doing before, that's going to put you back under slavery and bondage. That's Egypt. Our people didn't listen. And how do you think we got to America? He said, oh, you going back, but you going on those slave ships. Our Egypt was being on that transatlantic slave ship, going back into bondage, going back into slavery for 400 years. Because we were delivered and we did not believe. And so when someone is trying to hold you accountable, accountability, again, can feel like an attack when you're not ready to acknowledge that your behavior is not only hurting others, but yourself. And if you're married, your body is not your own. What you do not only affects your spouse, but your children and your future generation of children. So it matters who you listen to. So what am I talking about? Whose report will you believe? Yah had already promised to give them the land of Canaan. Okay, but they were fearful. They didn't believe. They talked themselves out of the blessing. And everybody who took heed to their destructive words and followed them, they suffered the same fate. They never entered into the promised land. So to those of you who are listening to the sound of my voice, what about you? Can Satan do the same thing to you as he did to Adam and Eve? If Satan can talk angels out of heaven, what do you think he can do to you? He was able to talk angels out of heaven to follow him. If he can do that to them, what do you think he can do to you? What do you think he's going to do to you? You'll be a piece of cake. So who you take counsel from does matter. Who you listen to does matter. And so having said that, coming out of the wilderness, or shall I say preparation for coming out of the wilderness, has to do with your heart posture. It has to do with the position of your heart. It's about you surrendering and sacrificing. What are you willing to give up? Because Yah said, I gave up my son for you. He said, I gave my son up for you. What are you willing to give up for him? As a people of Yah, we're expected to come up to the standards. I'm going to say this again. As a people of Yah, we are expected. Yah has a standard for how we are to live. Point blank, period. You're not going to be able to get around it. There's not more than one way to the kingdom. He has set a standard for living righteously, and you either come up to it or be destroyed. Do not allow anyone to convince you to go back to your old life, to your old way of living. There is a conspiracy to cancel out Yah and to cause the people of Yah to forsake him and to cast his word behind their back. There's a conspiracy right now that's going on that's calling on the people of Yah to forsake him, to doubt his word, to not believe his promises, and to cast the word of Yah behind their backs, to forsake him. Oh boy. And so now I'm going to take you to a couple of scriptures that Yah gave me during my quiet time. And that's we're going to be reading some snippets from Isaiah 8 and 9. It says, "And I took unto me faithful witnesses to record. Yah said to me, take a tablet, take a big tablet and write it in with a man's pen. Make haste to plunder and hurry to the spoil." So Isaiah, Yah is telling Isaiah to take a tablet and I want you to write in it. Okay. And Isaiah said, I took with me faithful witnesses to record. Okay. This means faithful witnesses to testify of what is going to be seen, what is going to be revealed. See, Joshua and Caleb came back with a good report of what they saw in the land, but there were unfaithful witnesses who testified a lie. Isaiah said, I took with me a faithful witness to record. Isaiah chapter 9 begins with the acknowledgement of a great light that had been seen by those who walk in darkness. And that great light is Yahusha. And those who walk in darkness are none other than the northern kingdom, the house of Ephraim, also known as the house of Israel. Isaiah chapter 9. You have not multiplied the nation. You have not increased the joy. They rejoice before you as the joy of the harvest, as men shout when they divide the spoil. Yah sent a word into Jacob, and it is fallen into Israel. And all the people shall know, Ephraim, and the ones living in Samaria, who say in pride and greatness of heart, bricks have fallen, but we will build with cut stones. The sycamores are cut down, but we will substitute or replace with cedars instead. In all this, his anger does not turn away, but his hand is still stretched out. When we read verses 9 and 10, it shows us the heart of this people. Instead of repenting for their sins and seeking the face of Yah, this prideful people are saying, although Yah has torn down, we will rebuild. We will continue in our ways as if nothing has happened. In their pride and arrogance, the leaders and the people of the northern kingdom of Israel have said in their hearts, who cares if Yah judges us? Whatever is torn down, we will rebuild it with something better. We do not fear what Yah can do to us. So since they believe that they will be able to weather the storms of an attack against them and rebuild still, Yah will send their adversaries against them. When you finish reading the remainder of this chapter, you will find that Yah's judgment against them will be complete, and their promise to rebuild will go unfulfilled. For the people do not turn to him who strikes them, and they do not seek Yah of hosts. And Yah will cut off from Israel head and tail, branch and rush, in one day. The elder and the exalted of base, he is the head, and the prophet who teaches lies, he is the tail. For this people's leader lead them astray, and its guided ones are swallowed up. For this, Yah shall not rejoice over their young men, nor have pity on their orphans and widows, for everyone is a hypocrite, an evildoer, and every mouth speaks foolishness. In all this, his anger does not turn away, but his hand is still stretched out. For the wickedness burns like a fire. It shall devour the briars and thorns, and shall kindle the thickets of the forest. And they shall roll upward like the going up of smoke. The land is scorched by the wrath of Yah hosts. In all this, his turn away, and his hand is still stretched out. A person who practices wickedness is like a person that is literally on fire. It is a horrible thing to fall into the hands of Yah because one refuses to repent. Verse 21 says, in all of his anger, his hand is still stretched out. For the first time in this chapter that we're reading in Isaiah chapter 9, we read that the judgments against Israel's pride was not enough. Do you know how scary this is? To be severely judged by Yah and it still not be enough, meaning more is to come. You have to be shamefully wicked in heart in order to receive this type of judgment. Lawlessness has to be an inflamed passion to have this level of punishment be sentenced against you. So before we begin with today's teaching, let me ask you this question. By how many chastisements shall one be afflicted to bring one to repentance? When we read Isaiah chapter 9, it does not appear that the chastisements of Yah did any good to the northern kingdom. Therefore, Yah's work was completed and the anger of his wrath was poured out. Isaiah chapter 9 ended with his hand being stretched out still. This was repeated 3 times, meaning there's still more sin to judge, and he was not ready to stop his work of judgment. Matthew chapter 4. But Yahushua, hearing that John was arrested, he withdrew into Galilee, and having left Nazareth, having come, he lived at Capernaum beside the sea in the district of Zebulun and Naphtali, so that it might be fulfilled that which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, way of the sea, the crossings of the Jordan, Galilee of the nations. The people sitting in darkness saw a great light, and to those sitting in the land and shadow of death, light sprang up to them. From that time, Yahushua began to preach and say, repent, for the kingdom of heaven has drawn near. Isaiah prophesies that those who walk in darkness was shown the great light. This message of coming judgment follows the announcement of Yahushua, but they were not ready for him. Will this be you? We just got finished reading Matthew chapter 4, which testifies of this great light as prophesied by the prophet Isaiah. And when we read verse 15, it speaks of the way of the sea of Galilee. I want you to stay tuned. Yah has revealed a very important revelation concerning the way of the sea, the Galilee of the nations. Okay, so as we read chapter 9 gives us, and I'm talking about Isaiah chapter 9, it gives us a clue and a glimpse into how serious we should take sin and the lengths at which we should go to eradicate it from our lives. So when it says that Yah's hand is being stretched out still, in this case, it means that his righteous and his righteous judgment is not going to cease until sin is put away, meaning more is to come. And so you have to think, if physical death is not enough judgment, because we all have to die. If our physical death is not, that's not enough judgment for the wicked who refuse to repent during that time on earth. If that's not enough, what is to come beyond the grave for the unrepentant? Do you even want to know what's coming for you? Because his word is physical death is not enough judgment. His hand is still going to be stretched out, still stretched out still. So if Isaiah chapter 9, these two were the ones that Rock led me to read and wanted me to put in this teaching, that it's even after their destruction and sending their enemies, still that wasn't enough. His judgments are righteous. That wasn't enough. Physical death will not be enough for the wicked. His hand is going to be stretched out still, meaning there is more to come. So now I am going to, we talked about the way of the sea, the revelation that he gave me on the morning of July the 6th, 2022, while I was in the midst of praying. The Ruach brought me back to the harp and bowl. And I was literally in the middle of praying, and Yah told me to look up strings while I was still on my knees praying, guys, to look up strings. The Ruach brought me back to harp and bowl. Remember the the harp has to do with Galilee, because that's what Galilee means, harp. And it's the way of the sea is where the northern kingdom and many of our people resided along Galilee. That's why Yahushua spent the majority of his ministry there. But I was told to look up strings because of the harp. What is it about the harps that they will have in the book of Revelations, where the elders had the harp and the bowls? The bowls represented the prayers, okay, of the people. But why the harp? So I want to share a revelation that he gave me concerning this, and then we're going to go into part 2 of today's message. So the harp, remember, it is when you look in the center, you see the Sea of Galilee. The harp is shaped, the Sea of Galilee is shaped like the harp, okay? And Yahushua spent the majority of his ministry along the way of the sea. And so let's go into the string revelations. According to the ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible, strings mean tie. It means cord. It means straight. And this is what blew me right here. Remnant. String means remnant. It means the straight ones. It means the upright ones. It means to be upright. It means to be just. It means the rest. Strings mean rest, remnant. I couldn't believe this. I was literally in the middle, and that's why I was led to get the harp. And I play the harp almost every time when I'm in my praise and worship time. And the strings, the instruments, the strings are it seems like these are the instruments that you see often in the book of Revelation, and in heaven, that the angels and the elders and the host of heaven, they have harps. and they're playing strings instrument. The strings mean straight. It means chord. It means remnant. So I want to show you this in the ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible. So strings, it said it means tie or cord. The picture of the shin is a picture of the teeth representing pressure. The resh is a picture of the head representing the top or the beginning. Okay. Combine these means press the beginning. Ropes and cords were usually made of bark strips, such as from the cedar or from the sinew, the tendon of an animal. The rope is made by twisting two fibers together. A single fiber is attached to a fixed point, and the two ends of the fibers are brought together. One fiber is twisted into a clockwise direction and wrapped over the other fiber in counterclockwise direction. The second fiber is then twisted in clockwise direction, then wrapped around the first fiber in a counterclockwise direction. The process is repeated through the length of the rope. The twisting of the fibers in opposite directions cause the fibers to lock or to press onto each other, making a stronger rope. The rope is used to tightly secure or support something, such as a load to a cart or poles of the tent. So it says cord because it also means cord. A tightrope is straight. A righteous one is one who is straight and firmly holds up truth, just as the cord is straight and firmly holds the wall of the tent upright. It means to be straight, okay? A straight line, a straight path, or a straight thought. It means remnant. Look at this, remnant, straight, direct, right, well, fit, good, to remain. The cords of the bow, straight, a straight line, straight path, or thought, and remnant. And so the cords of the bow, so what came up in my ruach as I was putting this together is the rainbow, okay? The cords of the bow. And we know that when you look here, remnant, it says it means cord, string, right, upright, righteous. It means to meet. It means, and look what it says, equity. I like that. It says remnant, residue, to leave, excellency. And so you have to think about the rainbow. When you think about the rainbow, this is what stood out to me, where it says agreement. When you see agreement. So when you think about the rainbow, what rose up in my ruach was a rainbow, and the bow having to do with the agreement that he made with mankind, his covenant sign, his covenant agreement with the righteous, the upright. The bow represents the upright, and it represents an agreement. It represents his promise that he made. And it's just, I was just like in awe about this. And then what also came in my spirit was about the 3-chord praise. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. A cord of 3 strands, meaning of those who are upright, or the remnant, is not easily broken. When you have 3 people that are in agreement, that are praying, he said that's not easily broken. We just learned about how the cords are tied to support. And so I want to go now into the strings connection to a particular scripture. And this was Wednesday of this week, 3 days ago, while I was in my worship time. Okay, this was my time that I was spending with Yah after prayer. And after I was praying, I got off my knees. As soon as I got up off my knees on Wednesday, I was led by the Ruach to read Psalms 11. But a specific verse jumped out as I read Psalms 11. So again, a lot of these revelations are happening it was so much that I had to reveal to you. It's the same. I was becoming overwhelmed with so many things that he was just sharing. So after on Wednesday, I spent my time in worship and praise with Yah, and got on my knees to pray. And then when I got off my knees, this was the scripture that the Ruach led me to go to read Psalms 11. And I'm going to share the 2 verses that jumped out and the connection that this verse is and what we just learned about the strings and what it means. Yah wanted to confirm it through scripture. Okay, so I sought refuge in Yah. How can you say to my soul, flee like a bird to your heel, flee like a bird to your heel? For behold, so David is again, you read all throughout Psalms with his enemies after him, and he's saying that in Psalms 11 verse 1, he said, I sought refuge in Yah. He says, how can you say to my soul, flee like a bird to your heel? For behold, he said, I flee like a bird, but he says, behold, the wicked will tread the bow. They fix their arrows on the string in order to shoot it at the upright of heart in the dark. So David said, look, I can go and flee like a bird to your heel, but like a bird to your heel. A heel is a very high place to flee. But he says the wicked will tread the bow and they will fix their arrows on the string. So they will tread their bow. So when you're treading something in the context, it means that you're going to march forth. He said they're going to press forth. They're going to march forth. Okay. And for battle, they're going to march forth. Bow in context, meaning they're going to march forth. I may go and hide and flee like a bird to the hills, so a higher place, but the wicked are going to march forth and they're going to hunt me for battle. Okay, they're going to hunt for battle, and when they march forth for battle, he said their target is going to be the strings. They are going to fix their arrow. You think about a bow and arrow. They're going to fix their arrow on the string. Their target, the target of the wicked, David is saying, is on the strings. Who are the string? Hallelujah. The remnant. This is in context. The remnant. Their target, the wicked's target, is the remnant. The remnant in order to shoot at the upright. Do you see this? Hallelujah. So Yah wanted to show me and to confirm what he had revealed to me about the strings. Okay, the way of the sea, Galilee, which is the harp, the way of the sea is the way of the upright. Yah's way is the way of the sea. His way is the way of the sea. And I don't have the particular scripture on hand, but his way is the way of the sea. David said this, that your way is the way of the sea. His way is the way of the upright. Okay, his eyes are fixed on the remnant. And the wicked target us. And they're targeting the upright now, the remnant, those who belong to him in this earth. That's what they're doing right now. Treading their bow, marching forth and preparing for battle and targeting the strings, the remnant who walk upright. Hallelujah. Praise Yah for this revelation. And so now we are in part 2 of the message, which is the final harvest message. This is the prophetic judgment warning that I'm entering into right now. And again, this message is a testimony of Yahusha. Okay, send your sickle and reap. Okay. So now we're going into part 2 because this message was a two-folded message. The first one was do not go back. Don't go back. Now we are into the prophetic judgment portion of this message that he gave me. And so this is a Sabbath word in the Revelation. So on June the 25th, 2022, I was awakened in the 6 o'clock hour to pray. And during this spirit-led prayer, I heard the following. This is what I heard, okay? Read Revelations 4 and 14. Meditate on verse 14. And I have it written exactly as I heard it, because as I heard it, I immediately got my phone and used, auto text so that I could put this in my notes and save it for this message. This was on June 25th and this was on the Sabbath. Okay, on this day, on the Sabbath day, this Sabbath day, I spent 6 hours in the presence of Yah, getting revelation and being poured into. Okay, I went into a complete zone. I didn't turn on any lights. I didn't open up my blinds. I sat in his presence, and he was just everything that you're getting ready to see moving forward came from those 6 hours that I sat into his presence and that he poured into me. I didn't turn on no TV was on, no phones, not talking on the phone, no, and this was on the Sabbath. I didn't even open the blinds. It was dark. I didn't open the blinds. I didn't cut on no lights, nothing. And this is what I was told. Read Revelations 4 and 14. Meditate on verse 14. He says, for I have come, not I'm coming. This is what he said. And in my ruach, I'm getting this Yahusha. He said, for I have come and will do my work in the earth. So he didn't say I'm coming. He said, I have come and I will do my work in the earth. Now, I'm not talking about Yahusha return to the earth. He's doing his work. He does the creating. He does the work. He's the arm of Yah. He said, for I have come and will do my work in the earth. You are my servant whom I have called, and I will prepare you. This is exactly what I was told. Read Revelations 4 and 14. Meditate on verse 14. For I have come and will do my work in the earth. You are my servant whom I have called, and I will prepare you. So he told me he's doing his work right now. His work is being done right now as we speak. Okay. And so let's go into those specific chapters that I was told to read. So Revelations chapter 4, and I'm only reading snippets. I'm reading the ones that I was led to put in here. After these things I saw, and behold, and this is John, the apostle John. After these things I saw, and behold, a door being opened in heaven. And I heard the first voice as a trumpet speaking with me, saying, come up here, and I will show you what needs to happen after these things. Okay. And so the apostle John in verse 1, he is being shown a vision of heaven, and he is told to come up because he would have to testify of the things to come. And immediately I became in the spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sitting on the throne. And the one sitting was in appearance like a jasper stone, we know Yahusha, and a sardonyx, and a rainbow was around the throne in appearance like an emerald. So in the spirit, John seeing Yahusha, the one sitting on the throne, and he looks like a jasper stone. So a jasper stone is usually brown, and the sardonyx is light to dark brown in varieties of colors. So in chapter 4, Revelations 4, he is being taken up in the clouds, being taken up into heaven to testify of Yahusha, and he would have to testify of what is to come. So this is him being introduced, and as far as of Yahusha. Revelations 14 now. And I saw, and behold, the Lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him were 144,000, with the name of his Father having been written in their foreheads. And I heard a sound out of heaven, and a sound of many waters, and as a sound of great thunder. So let me make this clear, because I know a lot of people try to teach this, but Yah is not done with his people. The 144,000, and has already told us in Revelation chapter 7 that these are the children of Israel. These are the 12 tribes, 12,000 from each tribe. Okay. The 144,000 that are being sealed in Revelation tells you plain and clearly, and I know people want to try to erase it and say the church has replaced it. No. He is going to renew that covenant again with the house of Israel, Ephraim, and the house of Judah, the two houses, and the two sticks are going to become one. Now, is this saying that nobody else is going to get salvation? Of course not. We don't teach that here. That's a lie. That's a lie. A lot of people are teaching things and are mixing up Ezra and the things. They're mixing up things. That's why I tell people to go back and watch our Gentile lesson, because a lot of people unknowingly are teaching things, and Yah never told us to stay away from people. It had nothing to do with their skin color. It had to do with if they were pagan, if they were going to turn their hearts away from him. But that's a whole nother story. But this 144,000 are the children of Israel. So I just wanted to make that clear, because you can verify that when you go back to read Revelation 7. This is who John is seeing. Also, I heard a sound of harpers harping on their harps. So once again, we know now what the strings represent. We know why Yahusha spent the majority of his ministry on the Sea of Galilee, the way of the sea, which means the strings, the upright. The strings represent the upright. It represents the remnant. Okay, he was coming back for his people. He said, I come not except for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as they sing, and it says, and they sing as a new song before the throne. So the 144,000 are the ones who are singing this song. And before the four living creatures and the elders, and no one was able to learn the song except the 144,000, those having been redeemed from the earth. So the 144,000 are the only ones who are learning this new song. These are the ones who have not been defiled, for they are pure. These are the ones following the Lamb wherever he may go. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits to Yah and to the Lamb. And no decoy was found in their mouth, for they are unmarked before the throne of Yah. So we're going to see three cherub or angel warnings that we're going to be reading about. And I saw, and this is still John testifying, he says, and I saw another cherub or another angel flying in mid-heaven and with blood, having the everlasting good news to proclaim to those dwelling on the earth, even to every nation and tribe and language and people, saying in a great voice, fear Yah and give glory to him, because the hour of his judgment has come. Also worship him who has made the heavens and the earth and the sea and the springs of water. So we are told now to fear Yah. So this first angel comes with the hour of judgment. He comes to proclaim judgment upon the earth. Okay, and this is from everyone. He's coming proclaiming the good news to everyone. Okay, warning them to believe the everlasting good news. Fear Yah, because his judgment has come. And this is to everyone that is on the earth. The second cherub warning begins at verse 8. It says, and another cherub followed, saying, the great city Babylon has fallen because of the wine of the anger of her fornication. She has made all nations to drink. So the second cherub comes with the judgment and the fall of Babylon. Okay, that great city Babylon. Okay, so this is going to happen. And the third warning, now we're coming upon the third warning from the third cherub or angel, saying in a great voice, if anyone worship the beast and his image and receives a mark on his forehead or in his hand, he also shall drink of the wine of the anger of Yah, having been mixed undiluted in the cup of his wrath. So this wrath that is going to be on anyone, because this is about the punishment. The third angel's warning is about punishment for anyone who worships the beast's image and receives the mark of the beast. Okay, he says if you do, you're going to drink the wine of the anger of Yah, and his anger is meaning it is undiluted. That means it's not going to be light. It's you getting the full strength of his wrath if you take and accept the mark of the beast. He says he will be tormented by fire and brimstone before the holy cherubs and before the Lamb, and the smoke of their torment will rise forever and forever. And those worshiping the beast and his image have no rest night and day, even if anyone receives the mark of his name. And the smoke of their torment will rise forever and ever. And those worshiping the beast and his image have no rest night and day, even if anyone receives the mark of his name. Here's the patience of the set apart ones. Here are the ones keeping the commandments of Yah in the faith of Yahusha. And I heard a voice out of heaven saying to me, write, blessed are the dead, the ones departing in the master from now on. Yes, says the Ruach, they shall rest from their labors and their works follow with them. So he says, if you depart and and you're in Yahusha, you are blessed. Because he says you're going to rest. So when that's saying rest in peace, this is what he's talking about. If you depart in Yahusha and he knows you and you know him, you will rest from your labors and your works will follow you. And so now we're going to talk about the final harvest, because that's what Revelations chapter 14 is about. And there are going to be two harvests that are being spoken of in this chapter. So I'm going to try to break this down for you as I read it. And as I saw, we're on verse 14. And these are the two, again, the one that Yah told me. And Yah told me to concentrate on verse 14. So here we are at verse 14, Revelations 14 and 14. He says, and I saw and behold a white cloud, and on the cloud one sitting like the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand he had a sharp sickle. Another cherub went forth out of the sanctuary, crying in a great voice to the one sitting on the cloud. Okay. And what is he crying? Send your sickle and reap, for your hour to reap has come, because the harvest of the earth has been fully ripened. And the one sitting on the cloud swung his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. So what you're looking at in verses 14 through 16, this is the first harvest. Okay. Revelation chapter 14 is going to speak of two harvests. The first harvest is the grain harvest. The grain harvest represent the people of Yah, those belonging to Yahusha. He says that it is long overdue. Okay, long overdue. So he's swinging his sickle. The first time he has a sharp sickle, because he's told to swing your sickle, swing it. And he's on the cloud. And so what I want to say is the cloud represents the presence of Yah. Okay. That's what the cloud represents. The cloud represents the presence of Yah, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And another cherub went forth. So 14 through 16 is the first harvest. I want you to know that. And that first harvest represents the people of Yah. Okay. And another cherub went out of the sanctuary in heaven. He also having a sharp sickle. And another cherub went forth from the altar, having authority on the fire, over for the fire. And he spoke with a great cry to the one having the sharp sickle, saying, send your sharp sickle and gather the cluster of the vines of the earth, because its grapes are ripened. And the cherub or the angel thrust his sickle into the earth and gathered the vine of the earth and threw into the winepress of the great anger of Yah. So we're seeing something a little bit different here, because with this second harvest, there we see the great anger of Yah. This doesn't appear to be a harvest that you want to be a part of. Okay. And the wine press was trodden outside the city, and blood went out of the wine press as far as the bridles of the horses for 1,000 from 1,600 furlongs. So this is symbolic of the second harvest, and the second harvest is referred to as the great harvest. This is judgment on the wicked, and it's letting you know that there's going to be so much blood that is going to be miles long and so high. From when you think about the wine press of the great anger of Yah. Again, the first harvest, verses 14 through 16, where is the grain harvest. It represents the people of Yah, those belong to Yahusha. And verse 17 through 20 is the second harvest. It's the grape harvest, and this is symbolic of judgment on the wicked. So you don't want to be, you want to be in that first harvest. You don't want to be in that second harvest. Okay. So let's talk about the law of sowing and reaping, because the law of sowing and reaping is this. You will reap what you sow later than you sow it and more than you sow. Let me say this again. The law of sowing and reaping is this. You will reap what you sow later than you sow and more than you sow. So whatever you reap is what you sow. Whatever you produce, whatever fruit you produce, that will be what you reap. That will be your reward. Okay? And you always reap later. Okay? And then it's always more. So you ever seen like when the wicked is being judged and he said, if you do this, okay, to be sevenfold. Like it's always worse. Like when you do something wrong, the consequences of what you've done wrong, the outcome is always worse than what you actually sowed. So it's like, is this even worth it? So I want you to think about that when you think about these two harvests that are being mentioned in Revelations chapter 14. And so Yahusha is the ruler and the reaper of the harvest. Okay, he was sitting on the clouds because, again, as I said, had when Yahusha, after he got baptized, he said, this is my son in whom I am well pleased. He said, I heard a voice from the cloud. When I had the dream, well, it wasn't a dream. Actually, before Hurricane Katrina happened, Yah showed me in a dream. Okay, I knew that it was happening before it happened. He showed me within a week before it happened. And it happened like days later within that same week that it happened. when Hurricane Katrina happened. And I was shown the map of the United States. I live in Michigan, and I was standing and I could clearly see the shape of the United States. I was in the mitten, okay, in Michigan, and I was looking down at Louisiana. And as I looked down, there was a hurricane that was hovering over it. And I heard moaning and people groaning and crying out to Yah for him to stop. And then I looked above the hurricane and it was a cloud. And the cloud was angry. And the cloud had eyebrows that was arched up. And I heard a thunderous voice speaking. Yah was in the cloud speaking to the people, telling them that you're a wicked people. You don't do anything that I say. And all I saw was hands coming up out of the water, and they were crying and moaning. He said, no, I'm not going to stop. Okay, so that goes back to my hands is stretched out still, meaning more judgment is to come. No, I'm not. I'm not done with you. This is not enough. Okay. He brought me back to that. So again, the clouds, I was in the clouds when I saw Hurricane Katrina before it happened, when y'all showed it to me. Okay. Moses was sitting on a cloud. He had to go up in the clouds to receive instruction on Mount Sinai. Okay. Think about the tabernacle. The glory of Yah filled the tabernacle with a cloud, and we know that Yah hovered over the people of Israel and followed them by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Okay, so the clouds, for those of you will want to know, and I know Prina, shared with me her dream about her being in the clouds. I had a dream about a baby, being in the clouds up, and it appeared to be like up in the heavens in the cloud, and the baby was at peace. And that baby was in the presence of Yah. Okay. So the clouds represents the presence of Yah. When you look throughout scripture, he was speaking after Yahusha had got baptized. He said, this is my son in whom I am well pleased. This is my son. And the voice he heard was a voice that was coming from a cloud. Okay. So, but getting back to the law of sowing and reaping. So the world has been sowing rebellion, both physically and spiritually. And what the world has sowed, the world, from what Yah has been showing me, is going to soon reap. Judgment is right. He said that it is long overdue. This world wants to live by their own standards. They don't desire to have a relationship with Yahusha. Therefore, many are going to die in their state of rebellion, just like our people did. They're going to reap what they have not only sowed, but have desperately begged for, and that is total and utter separation from Yah. Okay. But to those who would receive him and to believe him, he says that he will give right for them to become the children of Yah, to those who would believe. So now this blew me away. I want to show you the sickle cell connection to reaping in Revelations 14 through 16. I want to show you the sickle cell anemia. We know about that. And so this is what sickle cell anemia looks like. Okay. It's not a normal cell, but I want you to notice that the sickle cell looks just like the sickle. I want you to look at that. It looks just like the sickle for reaping. It's shaped just like the tool that is used for reaping. Okay. So this is a normal cell, it's round, but when it is shaped in a sickle, it is stiff and it also breaks down faster. Okay. It wreaks havoc in the body. In sickle cell anemia, the cells, they cut off the blood flow. Anemia means easily destroyed, and I'm anemic, I began to cry. My son is anemic, and I was not going to go into that. But I began to cry out to Yah. I do not want to be easily destroyed. I do not have sickle cell anemia, but I am anemic with low blood. In sickle cell anemia, if you look here at the diagram, sickle cell anemia, the cells, they become stiff, they break down faster. In sickle cell anemia, the cells cut off the flow of blood. And I want you to think about this. The cell, they're shaped like the crescent, is shaped just like the sickle, that the tool that you use to reap. Okay, so looking at its shape, the sickle is a tool that's used for reaping. Okay, and sickle cell anemia, the abnormal cell that is shaped like the crescent, it cuts off the flow of blood. Life is in the blood. Okay, life is in the blood. And when there is no flow in the blood, there is a lack of oxygen and you cannot breathe. Okay, sickle cell anemia is an inherited red blood cell disorder. So you have to inherit this disorder. Normal red blood cells are round like donuts and they move through small blood tubes in the body to deliver oxygen. Sickle red blood cells become hard, sticky, and shaped like sickles used to cut wheat. When these hard and pointed red cells go through the small blood tubes, they clog the blood, they clog the flow, and they break apart. This causes pain, damage, and low blood count or anemia. Okay, so I want you to look at the veins and I want you to notice that it looks like a tree. You see this? These are our veins. It's the picture of the inside of our veins. Okay, remember, life is in the blood. Sickle cell anemia, it cuts off the flow of blood. If there's no flow of blood in the body, that means that there's a lack of oxygen. What do trees give off? Do they not get oxygen? Here's another picture of our blood vessels or veins. It looks like a tree. This looks like a tree that has been cut. This is what sickle means. Sickle means cutting, according to Hebrews 2:770. Sickle means cutting. Okay, that's the reason why we use the sickle, which is a tool used to cut the grain of the harvest. Okay, sickle cell anemia, the crescent shaped abnormal cell cuts off the blood flow, cuts off life. Okay, see this? I could not believe this. This was during the 6 hours that I sat into a zone with Yah, and Yah was pouring all of this into me. Okay, so I have something very important that I want to share with you. Okay, and so here, according to Wikipedia, agricultural tool designed with various curved blades, typically used for harvesting or reaping grains or forage for feeding livestock. So I want to share with you something. So you all remember this here. This is my goodly tree. And then you look on the left, you see the Tav, the Hebrew letter Tav, the covenant sign of Yah. Okay, you see that there. And I shared this on previous teaching that Yah showed me this. Okay, and it was in my goodly tree. This sign was in my goodly tree. Right, and so I want you to pay attention. Guys, good morning. I wake up this morning on my way to work, only to find out that the community where I lived in cut Joseph. I'm devastated. So you're looking at my goodly tree, that beautiful goodly tree was cut down. Look at the center. There's a harp in the center. I was led by Yah to take a picture of the stump. Okay, guys, this is day 2, and as you can see, they have uprooted the roots of the tree. Stump. It's not there no more. They wanted to make sure that nothing grew back. And so all of this was, I cried and I cried and I cried during this time, and I want to read my journal from this day when I wrote down. So I said, it is with devastation and much grief that I write this update. On Tuesday morning in the 8 o'clock hour on June 14, 2022, I walked out of my house to go to work, only to be greeted with my goodly tree lying on the ground across my walkway. I hoped that it was a bad dream, but it was not. My precious and lively goodly tree that had just bloomed and held the covenant mark and sign in it, the top, was laying on the ground, cut at the stump. I was in so much shock and disbelief that I could not cry until I got to my car. I cried all the way to work, then broke down in front of my close coworker. She tried to comfort me along with my sisters in the faith. I cried for 2 days straight. Then I heard, I am your shade. I wanted to question Yah as to why he allowed this to happen, but I dared not question Yah. I accepted what he allowed. Today, as I write this journal message on Saturday, the 18th, I have finally come to peace with the loss and the cutting down of my goodly tree. Also, I want to make mention at what I saw in the center of this goodly tree. The Ruach brought my attention to look more closely to the center of the stump, and behold, I saw what looked like the Sea of Galilee, which is the shape of a heart, which also means heart. Hallelujah. So I said that maybe, just maybe, Yah is going to revive my goodly tree, just like he did with Joseph. But then by Wednesday, the very next day, the stump that had the shape of the Sea of Galilee and the harp in it had been removed. The community workers had come back the next day while I was asleep and uprooted the stump and put mulch over it. I was sad that they uprooted the stump, but only Yah knows what he will do next. My Yah's arm is not too short. He can grow, create, and work without a stump. My Yah's work is marvelous. My hope is not dead. My hope and my trust is in him and his plans. So this is what I wrote. But I also want to add, I don't have the pictures here. I will have the pictures and next there. Joseph has, Yah has added an increase to Joseph. On that day that I wrote this journal, I was led to look over at Joseph, and Yah has added to Joseph. He has increased Joseph by 4 new buds. So there are 11. 11 represents the Kaf. The 11th letter has to do with blessing and receiving a blessing. It has to do with his covenant sign, the rainbow. I was excited to once again see the hand of Yah work once again. I was absolutely, when I saw the harp inside of that stump, and now knowing what the strings mean, the upright, the remnant, and what he has said, for that those who do not bear fruit will be cut down. There was so many things, and I began to seek Yah's face to see, was I doing anything wrong? You know, when things like this happen, but all of this is a message that he wanted me to bring forth. And Yah has been using his creation, his plants, my plant Joseph that has been born again, brought back from death to life twice. My tree, my goodly tree that was there. He's been using so many things to get his message across to his people. Like, you're literally, these things that I'm showing you today, and I'm not done. You're looking at miracles. You're looking at the hand of Yah. You're looking at his acts, things that he did to the children of Israel, that he revealed. He's doing these things. He's revealing these things. And all of this happened during this time I was away. During this 6 weeks that I was away. So again, if you look here, this was my goodly tree that was cut down. And on the left, you see the top, the covenant sign that was in that goodly tree. And this is what I heard after my tree was cut down. This is what I heard. He said, you saw my covenant sign, meaning you saw it in the tree. You saw my covenant sign. Yah says, I am marking mine and cutting down the rest. This is what I heard him say. You saw my covenant sign, meaning in that goodly tree, you saw that covenant sign, that tar. You saw it. Look at it on the left. He said, you saw my covenant sign. He says, now I am marking mine. Those who belong to me are marking mine. He's sealing his servants now, guys. He is sealing right now. He says, and then I'm cutting down the rest. My son is going to come and reap. And you are going to have a choice to make on what harvest you want to be a part of. If you want to be a part of that first harvest, that grain harvest, or do you want to be cut down and be a part of that wine press, that great harvest that's going to have the wrath of Yah undiluted? So there is a threshing floor judgment that is taking place. What you're looking at here on the screen is a threshing floor. A threshing floor in scripture is a place of separation and revelation. It is a place where the harvest was prepared by separating the grain from the useless straw for the purpose of exposing and collecting the most valuable part of the crop. Okay? So according to the ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible, threshing means grass. Okay, and I'm trying to pull up here. So threshing means grass. The picture of the dalet or dalet is a door representing the idea of moving back and forth. The shin is a picture of teeth, meaning to press. Combined, these means the back and forth movement of pressure. The grains were placed on the threshing floor where they were trampled on and beaten in order to separate the hulls from the grain. Okay? It means sharp. So threshing means sharp. It means hoe, a sharp cutting instrument. Threshing means sharp, a sharp cutting instrument. It means to decide, to make a decision in the sense of dividing between two choices. We talked about the two choices in the beginning of this judgment message, about the two choices. You're either going to believe Yah in his report and trust him and obey him and serve him, choose this day. You're going to make a choice whether you're going to be in that first harvest, the grain harvest, the wheat harvest, or you're going to be in that second harvest. But there is a decision that Yah wants you to make today. This is a time sensitive message for many of you. You don't know if you at that 10th. You know how many times have you tried him? In that wilderness at 10 times, he said, I'm done. He told them, I'm done. They have tried me these 10 times. I am done. They are not entering in. I'm done. They're going to die here in their rebellion. They're going to die in their disobedience. They're going to die in their disbelief. Okay? So there is a choice that you're going to make during this month. Yah, the hand, if you don't see it, Yah, he told me, and I heard it, that I have come and I will do my work. I'm going to complete my work. During the month of June, during Pride Month, okay, during the Wicked Pride Month of the LBGG, WA by ZH, all these letters, okay, during Pride Month, if you cannot see the hand of Yah working in the earth, during this month, all throughout the Pride Month in June, Yah allowed the overturning of Roe versus Wade, where now you will not be able to kill or abort babies. He not only overturned during Pride Month, y'all see his hand. When his hand is at work, it don't matter what they do. They fighting. They are fighting right now against the hand of Yah. Why? Because he is at work. He told me, I'm at work. I've come and I am going to do my work. I'm doing my work in this earth. His work is being done right now. That overturning of Roe versus Wade is his work. During Pride Month, one of the 6 things he hates, Yah allowed the overturning of Roe versus Wade, a return of prayers in school. How many of you know that there was a return of prayers in school where there will now be allowed to pray in school again? And also constitutional carry, where you have the right to bear arms. We need to be praising Yah for this. Judgment is coming. Judgment is coming. America's harvest time has come, and she is going to reap what she has sown. But not only that, Yah's very own people, his very own chosen people, Israel, have participated with the heathens in continuously testing Yah. For they have went and they have gone from being kings and a royal priesthood to some of the most debased people on the planet. Therefore, a threshing floor is taking place. This threshing floor is taking place now. When the harvest was gathered, it will be put on a threshing floor, and then a threshing instrument was used to separate the wheat from the tares. So a separation right now is occurring. Yah is going to separate you from something or someone that is no longer producing. Okay? There is a pruning that will happen. Okay? A pruning that will make certain that you have no snares in you. Many of us will be placed on the threshing floor. We all have to be on that threshing floor. All of us. Many of us will be placed on the threshing floor to consecrate us, to make us into a bride that is fruitful, a bride that is spotless. The maturation period, Yah says, is here. The maturation period is here. So many people have been in your circle who have been masquerading as believers or masquerading as friends. They're going to be exposed for the tares that they have always been, but it is not until now that you know it. There are many people that Yah have allowed you to grow up with or to continue to be in your presence that he is saying no more. It is not, because it's only up until now that you have been allowed to grow together. That separation, if it hasn't started, it's coming, okay? Some of the things that will be happening in your life will seem like they're falling apart, but in actuality, they're coming together, because when the dust settles, you're going to see the truth of what was real and what was fake. I have learned as of recently to stop fighting against people who come in and out of my life like revolving doors. people who I think that are friends, people who I think that are of the faith, only to find out they just disappear. And it has hurt me, but Yah has shown me that stop fighting against it. Stop wondering why they left. Stop wondering why they ain't responding. Stop worried because they're not calling anymore. These separations, people who I was close to and friends with, and then not no more. And I'm talking about some that were in the faith. Don't worry about it. The separation is for a purpose. It is for a purpose. And many of you are going to have people that you're separating from because we're on this threshing floor. It's going to be people that are in your family. Are you listening to what I'm saying? You're going to be separating from people that are in your family. Not just friends, not just people you think are in the faith or believers. Many people have been growing up with you and who have been in your circle, been in your space all this time, pretending like they're weak when they've been the terror the whole time. They're being revealed. They're being exposed. How can two walk unless they agree? You can't have friends that are in the world. You cannot. I don't care what nobody say. I don't care how long you know them. You can't. Because they're going to stunt your growth. So here, when I shared before with this plant and how this plant was birthed forth during the time of harvest and during the first fruits and during Pentecost, during the 50th day, and because I was told the day from the first time that Yah had rebirth, when I saw the first one to when all 7 had came to fruition, when they all were birthed forth, all 7 were birthed forth, it was 7 weeks. It was 7 weeks. And so Deuteronomy 16:9 says, you shall count off 7 weeks. Begin to count the 7 weeks from the day when the sickle is first put to the standing grain. So this is what happened with my plant. And so now, Yah, I'm going to go over 3 Hebrew letters that Yah told me to bring forth in this lesson. Immediately when I learned about the sickle and the tool, and I was immediately brought to the Zion, okay, that he wanted me to bring forth. So Zion is the 7th Hebrew letter. And notice it's shaped like the 7. Do you see this? The Zion is shaped like the 7. Look at the tool. Look at it. This is what it's shaped like. Okay, it's the 7th Hebrew letter. It means weapon or to plow. It means sickle. It means to cut off. Okay, in Arabic, it means separation or to slice. And according to the ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible, when you look at it, the Paleo Hebrew almost looks like an I, uppercase I. It says it's some type of agricultural implement similar to the work of a mattock or a ply. The meanings of this letter are harvest or crop. So Zion means the harvest or crop, as this tool is used for harvesting food. As for the harvest, to cut from the function of implement and brought from its shape. Okay. So let me bring more understanding to the sickle message that is coming forth. So I want to read this here, 2 Timothy 3:16-17. It says, all scripture, okay, is given by inspiration of Yah and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, so that the man of Yah may be perfect, having been thoroughly equipped for every good work. Okay. And so this word, this message that you're hearing today is for your edification. For many of you, it's a reproof. It can be for your correction and also for instruction in righteousness so that you can be thoroughly equipped. Okay. And so to help you to understand this sickle message, where Yahushua says, where he is told to send your sickle and reap, we need to understand when we talked about in Revelations 14, those 2 harvests, the grain harvest represents the people of Yah and the wheat, and then that the the grape harvest, that second harvest, which is the one we don't want to be of. And so to help you to understand this, Yah wanted me to go over again the parable of the wheat and the tares and the roles of the reaper in this parable. And again, this is the final harvest precept that I'm reading. I'm reading Matthew chapter 13, verses 24 through 30. Yahushua put before them another parable, saying, the kingdom of heaven is compared to a man sowing good seed in his field. But while the men were sleeping, an enemy came and sowed tares in the midst of the wheat and went away. And when the blade sprouted and produced fruit, then the tare also appeared. And coming near, the slaves of the housemaster said to him, Sir, didn't you sow good seeds in the field? Then where did these tares come from? Meaning, like, didn't you put in good seeds? So if you did, well, why do we have tares? And he said to them, an enemy did this. And the servant said to him, do you desire then that going out we should gather them? Meaning, should we go out and take these tares away from the midst of the wheat? And Yahushua said, no, unless gathering the tares, you also uproot the wheat with them. So it goes again. You can't really tell the tare from the wheat until it comes to full maturation. When it matures, then you are able to see the difference between the tares and the wheat. Okay. He says, no, in verse 30, allow both to grow. Excuse me. Allow both to grow together until the harvest. And in the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, first gather the tares and bind them into bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barns. Let me read this again. He said, allow both to grow together until the harvest, meaning to the full maturation. Okay. And then in the time of the harvest, he says, I will say to the reapers, okay, first gather the tares and bind them into bundles to burn them. But he tells them to put the wheat into my barn. The enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are the angels. Therefore, just as the weeds are gathered and burned with fire, so will it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send forth his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all stumbling blocks and those who commit lawlessness. You see this? He says that he is going to get rid of all, he's going to have them gather, the angels are going to gather all of the stumbling blocks, all of those who stumble, who cause others to stumble. He's going to gather them and get rid of them. Are you looking at this? So what immediately brought me back to this is Isaiah chapter 5. When I read the parable about the vineyard, and Yah is the vine dresser, where he said that he planted Israel as a choice vineyard. He said he planted them on fertile soil. He said, I dug it, I cultivated it. He said, I loosened the soil. He said, I cleared it of any stones, meaning of any stumbling blocks, anything that would cause it anything that would cause it to be resistant to growing. He said, I removed it. He said, I planted it with choice vines. I didn't plant it with tares. Y'all said, I planted it with choice vines, and I built a watchtower in the midst of it. Someone who will watch it to make sure that the enemy doesn't come in and put a tear among it. But Yah said he looked for it to yield good grapes. He says, but it yielded worthless grapes. Yah says, judge between me and my vineyard. What more, Yah said, could I have done? Yah said, I did everything to cause Israel, his vineyard, to prosper. He said, but they produce rotten grapes. This is what this brings me back to Isaiah chapter 5, when he says in that final harvest at the end of the age, the Son of Man, Yahushua, is going to send forth his angels. We saw the angels in Isaiah 14 going forth, and he's going to gather those out of his kingdom. And he's going to gather all those stumbling blocks, those who commit lawlessness. And then what he said, he's going to throw them into the fiery furnace where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Okay. So here's the sickle. This is what it looks like. Okay. It says, for the Son of Man will come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will repay each one according to what he has done. Meaning you are going to reap what you have sown. You're going to be rewarded to what you have done and produced on this earth. If you've produced good fruit, then you will be rewarded with the crown of life. If you have been, if you have produced rotten fruit, you're going to be repaid for what you have done. And he says that you're going to be reaped, sickled, and thrown in the fire to be burned. You're a tare. He says, I am the true vine. John 15, verse 1 through 2. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me not bearing fruit, he says he takes it away, and each one bearing fruit, he prunes so that it may be more fruitful. Okay? See, people don't understand what pruning is not meant to hurt you. It's to help you. Okay? Pruning is to help you. So, yeah, so I've already gone over the Zion. Okay, and now I want to share with you Yah's revelation via the Paleo Hebrew letters, the Ayin and the Kuf. Okay? So, on Monday, June 27, 2022, around 10 a.m., because I chronicled the time, I was sitting at my dining room table, and I was led to look towards my window, okay? And my blinds were slightly open, just slightly open. But they were open enough to see that a shadow had appeared, that a shadow, and the shadow appeared to be like a man. So I'm reading you from my journal because I wrote this down. And I'm at the table, and I'm led to look to the right because that's where my blinds would be. It was slightly open, but it was open enough, and it appeared that I saw a shadow. And I'm thinking that maybe a man, someone was coming to the door. Maybe they was dropping off a package, but it appeared to be a shadow of a man that was hovering over my patio, where my previous goodly tree. Because remember now, my goodly tree has been cut down now. Okay, it was cut down on the 14th. So this is the 27th. It's almost 2 weeks later. So the only shadow that I'm used to seeing hanging over my patio is my goodly tree. So I'm thinking, oh, this may be somebody's at the door. I'm not thinking that it's another tree. So I thought I'm reading from my notes, I thought someone was on my porch, only to find the shadow of the huge tree that resides nowhere near my patio was shadowing over my porch for me to see. So there's another huge tree that's closer to where my car is parked, but it's nowhere near, and I've never seen its shadow over my patio. It's too far away. But lo and behold, it's shadowing over my porch for me to see. So I got up to look out the window, and upon witnessing the shadow, I was led to go outside and look at the sun that was hiding behind this humongous tree. Okay. I was led by the Ruach to go outside and to take pictures with my camera. And so I want to share with you what Yah showed me and why we're going over the Ayin and the Kuf. So when I go outside, you can see the sun hiding behind the tree. But then when I came out, as soon as I get ready to take the picture, this is what I saw. So look at this here, the sun with the rays going across, with the line going straight across. This is what I see. Okay. Look at this. And then look at what is below that looks like an eye. Do you see this? And then there's something that looks like, and it becomes more apparent later, so I'm gonna go over that, like little purple line that looks like a Vav or a 1. So I'm looking at these two signs, and immediately I go and look them up because I knew the I was an Ayin, and I didn't remember the other one until I went and looked it up, and it was a Kuf. Okay. And then I took another picture and it looked like it's slightly moved over to the right. So it kind of looks like a backwards, the way with the line with going down almost looks like the Zion, almost like the 7, like a backwards 7. That's what it kind of looks like to me. And then I took a third picture and it got closer and closer and became more clear. So you can really see it now. You can really see that and you see that it moved over. So each time I took a picture, it got more and more clear. So I want to show you. So we're going to first go over the ayin that looks like an I. So ayin is a 16 Hebrew letter. It is a picture of an eye. Okay. It means sight, insight, and understanding. It means experience. It means watch or to heed. It is through the eyes that we see the world, okay, that we experience the world. It means to know. And so I wanted to read this precept, Matthew 16, verses 22 through 23 reads, the eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. If the eye is evil, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, he says, how great is that darkness? So the eye is, according to scripture, is the lamp of the body. If your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is evil, your whole body, he says, will be full of darkness. And if it is dark, full of darkness, how great is that darkness? I was doing a study yesterday, and in this study, when I read Exodus 33 and 13, my spirit was quickened and I was led to go back and add this to the teaching. This was just last night. It reads, and now, and this is Moses asking to see the glory of Yah. And he says, and now, if I have found favor in your eyes, please make me see your way. Let me know you so that I may find favor in your eyes. So he said, make me see your ways. I want to see your ways. I want to know you. I want to experience you. This is exactly what I said when I came into truth in 2004. When Yah brought me into his truth of who I was in 2004, when I cried out to him, and I got on my knees and I said, I want to know who you are. And I said, reveal yourself to me. Those were the exact words. This is how I came into truth. I said, I want to know, because I was going to a Christian church. And with the truth that they knew, they did serve Yah there. And I will say that. And upheld the word like as they knew it. But there were still things that they were teaching that did not line up with scripture, and I was confused. And I had really began seeking the face of Yah, reading on my own, studying on my own. And I became frustrated because what they were telling me about the 3 days and 3 nights about didn't line up about the Good Friday. And I remember crying out to Yah, and I read Matthew 7, verses 21 through 23, when he said they cried, they say I cast out, demons in your name, and I did all of this in your name and miracles. And he said, and I will say, depart from me, I never knew you. And I said, how horrible would it be to get to the end, think you're saved, only to have him say, I don't know you. And so I got on my knees and I was crying out to Yah. And I said, I want to know who you are. I felt like I was Jacob, like I'm taking hold and I'm not letting you go until you bless me. That's the way I was on my knees. I'm not letting you go until you bless me. And I said, I want to know who you are. Reveal yourself to me. And as soon as I said that, I heard it as clear as day. Like you hear my voice, I heard it. You must keep my Sabbath. That's exactly what he told me. You must keep my Sabbath. And that's the reason why I'm so dogmatic about it today, because I heard it. I heard it myself. And so Moses is asking, he says, look, if I have found favor in your eyes, please cause me to know your way. I want to see your ways. I want to experience you. I want to know you. Let me know you so that I may find favor. How many of you prayed that prayer? I cried out to Yah, and I was in Christianity, but I was seeking him and I was confused. And I said, I want to know who you are. Reveal yourself to me. And when I saw this yesterday, my spirit was quickened because it was like, this is what you did. You cried out. He said, ask and you will receive. Seek me and you will find. Knock and the door will be open. If you ask, you will receive. I asked, I cried out. By the time you knocking, you crying out with everything in you. You beating the door down. I want to know you. And this is what many of you need to pray. If I have found favor in your eyes, this was Moses, and Yah revealed his name in the next chapter over, Exodus 34. He obliged him, and he caused Moses to know him. He revealed what his name is. His name is more than a pronunciation. That's why I get tired of Hebrews arguing over the name and trying to beat down Christians because they don't know the name. There are many people who are Christians. They might not know the name, but I know some who are keeping the Sabbath, who are honoring feasts, who are walking in holiness and living right, more righteous than many of these wicked Hebrews. Okay, just because you have on your head wrap, you keeping Sabbaths and feasts, and just because you know you Israel, that your salvation, your identity is not in who you are. Your identity is in Yahusha. And that's what many of you forgotten. You have the law, but you don't have the spirit. You know, he says, Moses cried out to Yah, and he said, I want to show me your ways. Let this be your prayer today. Meditate on this. Take a picture of this. Exodus 13:33. If I have found favor in your eyes, cause me to see your ways. I want to see you. I want to experience you. I want understanding of you, not because knowledge of who Yah is understanding, according to Proverbs 9 and 10. Knowledge of who Yah is understanding. Moses was asking for understanding. He wanted to know him, because if you don't know him and he doesn't know you, what are you going to hear? Depart from me. And then Kuf was the second letter, okay, because we saw that Kuf there. So the Kuf, if you look over on the right, this is what I saw. The sun with the horizon, okay? The Kuf is the 19th Hebrew letter. It's a picture is a sun on the horizon. It means behind, it means time. And that's why I said this message is time sensitive. And the reason why, because you're going to know what the Hebrew letter, the 19th letter in the Hebrew, what it means. It means to divide, it means set apart, and it means to gather. It also means, according to the ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible, means revolution of the sun. So revolution. Anytime there's a revolution represents a drastic change, an action or a change. It means a shakeup, an uproar, and it also means bloodshed. It means the numeric value is 100, which means the fullness or the perfection of Yah's power. Okay, so when you think about Psalms 119, that's my favorite, one of my favorite books in the Bible and chapters is Psalms 119, the fullness of the perfection of Yah. If you want to know who Yah is, read Psalms 119. You're going to know who he is through and through. Ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible says that 19 represents the fullness or the fruit or the fullness of time. It's also the number of judgment. 19, as you're going to see, is the number of judgment. Let me say this again. 19 is the number of judgment. In the 19th chapter of Genesis is judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay. Genesis 19 is the judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah. The 19th book is Obadiah, is judgment against Edom. COVID-19, 19, do you think it is a coincidence that it's COVID-19? Because it's judgment. I did this a message about this in the beginning. It's his judgment, these plagues. He said, I have come. He told me, I've come. I'm doing my work in this earth right now. Many people wanted to repent at the beginning when this pandemic happened. Now people have forgotten. Just like he says, a man who looks in the mirror and walks away and forget the manner of man he was. Many have gone back to who they were. He said, don't go back. COVID-19, 19 is Kuf, represents the number of judgment. This is what I'm seeing in my tree, guys. Not in my goodly tree because it's been cut down. It's the tree that's nowhere near it, but it was hovering over enough for me to see it on my cement through my blinds to go out and to take pictures. Why would I just go outside just because I see some shade? I saw shade all the time. I was led go out there and take pictures. Yah had something he wanted to reveal. All of this was coming together. All of this is during this 6 weeks. Are you listening to what I'm saying? So when I was out of town all last week. I came back on Monday. I saw an interesting symbol in the clouds. It had rained briefly, and after the rain, in a cloud, I saw the most beautiful. The pictures and the video you can see, it does not do it any justice. When I say I'm talking about bright, I'm talking about I've never seen a rainbow like this going across. And Yah, and again, I was sitting in the hotel room with the blind, and they didn't have blinds, but they had like a sheer curtain. And I'm looking, and something was telling me to look out the window, look, and it wasn't open, but I said, is that a rain? It was so bright that I could see it through the curtains. And I went and opened up the window, and this is what I saw. And again, the video doesn't do any justice. At this beautiful rainbow. So I'm on vacation. Today is the Sabbath, July the 16th. The rainbow starts here, and I'm gonna just look over to the right of the camera, and you're going to see how it ends. You see this? Hallelujah. Look at this beautiful. I mean, the camera is not doing it any justice. I'm talking about these colors are super bright. Look at this. All the way here. And then it ends right here. Hallelujah. At this beautiful. So, and right after that, right after the rainbow began to dissipate, I was led to look in the cloud. And this is a symbol of what I saw in the cloud. When I first looked in the cloud, I thought that it was an anchor. But it wasn't until I came back and Yah showed me about the iron and the kuf and looked back in it. And I said, no, that Yah led me through my research to this symbol. I didn't know anything about this symbol. I was looking up something else and this came up. And I said, and my spirit was quick. And I'm like, this is what I saw in the cloud. But I didn't take the picture because I thought it was nothing. Now I'm learning when y'all tell me to do something, just take a picture. Even if it's nothing, I can discard it. I'm sorry that I didn't take the picture, but this is a symbol that I saw in the cloud after that rainbow had dissipated. Okay, so on the Sabbath on July 17, 2022, I saw this image in the cloud right after Yah's covenant sign, the rainbow had dissipated. Now, when you look at this, and I'm like, okay, this looks like, and I look right here. Now you look here where this arrow is, what I just had. This looks like the hammer, because this is a hammer and a sickle. This is what I saw. And now that the part that I told you that was under the iron, this is what I saw here. This is what I saw here. And look at this. This looks like a hammer. This looks like a hammer.
And so if anybody knows anything about it, this is a symbol, and this has to do with Russia. This is their symbol. Now, I'm not saying anything, and I'm not getting ready to come on here saying anything, but I know judgment is coming to this nation. And I've shared the dream plenty of times before, and I don't really want to go into it, but judgment is coming. Okay. That symbol that I saw in the sky, this was it. I saw that hammer in that tree. The kuf is the sign of judgment. This is Russia's symbol. Now, I'm not saying anything because y'all didn't tell me, but all I'm saying is I'm just sharing with you what he showed me. And I don't know if they're going to be involved in anything that have to do with this nation, but this is what I saw. Okay. And so if anybody else have had any dreams, have any revelations, because we're part of the body, he doesn't give it all to one we see and know in part, please feel free to comment below this video. I'm interested in knowing, well, maybe Yah has revealed some things to you that can kind of put this together. But as Yah, if he gives me more information about this, I will reveal. So please don't come in here and say she said and gave a false prophet. I'm just showing you what Yah showed me. I don't know, but this, I know that this symbol, when I looked this up, has to do with Russia. Okay. So I don't know. So let me read the second precept. He put before them another parable, saying, the kingdom of heaven is compared to a man sowing good seeds in his field. But while the man was sleeping, an enemy came and sowed tares in the midst of the wheat and went away. And when the blade sprouted and produced fruit, then the tare also appeared. And coming near, the slaves of the housemaster said to him, Sir, you didn't sow good seed in your field. Then from where did the tares come from? And he said to them, a man, an enemy did this. And the slave said to him, do you desire then that we should go out and gather them? But he said, no, unless we gather the tares and also uproot the wheat. So what Yahusha is saying, because I had the stump was there, and then I tried to come back the second day. I'm glad that I took the picture to see that harp in it the first day, because it had been removed. The stump had been removed so that it could not grow back. Yahusha said, every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and is thrown into the fire. Okay. So 19, again, guys, is the number of judgment. Judgment has started. He says, I have come and I am going to complete my work. Yah's judgment in this earth. He says, I'm going to complete it. Okay. When you read 1 Peter 4:17, he tells you that judgment begins with the household of Yah. Judgment begins with the household of Yah. Okay. Yahusha is calling. His voice is crying out in the wilderness before times run out, before time run out. That's why I have this here. That's why it has to do with time. 19 has to do with time, because that's what people take for granted is time. People think I got time. When you try to witness, well, I'll do that later. I'm not ready yet. Who say you gonna have tomorrow? Who say you gonna have later on today? People take time, which is his grace, for granted. People in hell wish they had time to come back. Time is precious. This message that I'm delivering is time sensitive. You don't know if this is the 10th time and Yah saying that's it. His grace has run out. Her grace has run out. They mocking me. They taking my grace and my mercy for granted. Yahusha is calling. His voice is crying out in the wilderness. He's crying out before time runs out. Time is going to eventually run out. Revelation 19 that we just read is the final battle. And we're going to talk about that in a moment, but he wants me to read Revelations 19. This is the last chapter that I'm reading. Revelation 19 is the final battle, and I've been given a charge to read this to you in the hopes that many of you who have been listening to the sound of my voice will repent. Only you and Yah know what you've been doing and what you need to repent of. Because he's saying that the consequences of rejecting the 3 angels will be irrevocable. Okay? That's why the first angel came with blood saying, believe the good news, repent, worship Yah, fear him. Okay? Then judgment came, and then the punishment came with the 3rd angel. Again, rejecting the 3 angels, those consequences are going to be irrevocable. Many of you are taking Yah's patience for approval. Just because he has not struck you down does not mean he approves of your life and your lifestyle. Okay? When we sin, we give our authority over to the enemy, while obedience creates the legal opportunity for Yah to act on his word. He wants to act, but he can't. So let's read Revelation 19. This is the final chapter. Revelation 19. And after these things, I heard a voice of a large multitude in heaven saying, Hallelujah, the salvation and the glory and the honor and the power of Yah Elohim. For true and righteous are his judgments, because he judged the great harlot who defiled the earth with her fornication. And he avenged the blood of her slaves out of her hand. And the second time they said, Hallelujah. Also, her smoke goes up forever and ever. And the 24 elders and the 4 living creatures fell down and worshiped Yah sitting on the throne, saying, so be it, hallelujah. And a voice came out from the throne saying, praise our Elohim, all his servants and the ones fearing him, the small and the great. And I heard as a sound of a numerous crowd, and as a sound of many waters, and as a sound of strong thunder, saying, hallelujah, because Yah Elohim, our Almighty One, reigns. Let us rejoice and let us exalt, and we will give glory to him, because a marriage of the Lamb came and his wife prepared herself. Let me say this again. Let us rejoice and let us exalt and give glory to him, because a marriage of the Lamb came. Not is coming, but the marriage of the Lamb came, and his wife, his bride, prepared herself. That's why I started this message off with preparation for coming out of the wilderness. When you read the book of the Songs of Solomon, it's a love story about Yah and Israel, about his bride. And at the end, she finally is prepared to come out of the wilderness. And it was given to her that she be clothed in fine linen, pure and bright, for the fine linen is a righteousness of the saints. And he said to me, right, blessed are the ones having been called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said to me, these words of Yah are true. And I fell before his feet to worship him. And he said to me, behold, stop. I am a fellow slave of yours and of your brethren, having the testimony of Yahusha. Worship Yah. See, even the angels would not receive the worship. He said, don't worship me, worship Yah. I am just like you, one of your brothers that have the testimony of Yahusha. For the testimony of Yahusha is the spirit of prophecy, and I saw heaven being open. So that's what so if someone's calling themselves a prophet and they don't have the testimony of Yahusha, they're no prophet at all. If you in Israel talking about you rejected Yahusha, you reject the New Testament, and you don't believe in the Messiah, you are not a prophet, because he is the spirit behind prophecy. He is the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end. He is the fulfillment of the entire book. So he is the testimony. That the testimony of Yahusha is the spirit of prophecy. And behold, a white horse, and he sitting on it, having been called faithful and true. And he judges and makes war in righteousness. And his eyes were as flames of fire. And on his head were many crowns with many titles written on it. And one of the titles that had been written on it, no man knew but he himself. And having been clothed in a garment which had been dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Yah. So Yahusha is the Word of Yah. He is the word of Yah. And the armies in heaven follow him on white horses, being dressed in fine linen, white and pure. And out of his mouth goes forth a sharp sword, that with it he might smite the nation, and he will shepherd them with an iron rod. So when I looked up rod in context, in the Blue Letter Bible, it's the staff, it's the lamed. It says with a rod of iron. This indicates, it says the severest and most rigorous rule. So what he's getting ready to do is getting ready to be severe. Okay, the most severest, rigorous rule. Okay, that he's going to shepherd them with. Have you think about the worst whooping you have ever gotten from your parent? And he treads the winepress of the wine of anger and the wrath of Yah Almighty. So remember we read Revelation 14 about that second harvest? This is that second harvest. He treads the winepress of the wine of anger and the wrath of Yah. And he has on his garment and on his thigh a name having been written, King of Kings and Master of Masters. And I saw one cherub, meaning one angel, standing in the sun. And he cried with a great voice, saying to all the birds flying in mid-heaven. So this angel is standing in the sun. Okay, he's in the sun. Come and gather together to the supper of the great Elohim, that you may eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of captains. So he's letting them know, look, it's getting ready to be a great slaughter, a battle. Come, you getting ready to have the flesh of kings, the flesh of captains. This is the wrath of Yah. Okay, that you may eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of captains and the flesh of strong ones and the flesh of horses and of the ones sitting on them, and the flesh of all, free men and slaves, even of small and great. And I saw the beasts and the kings of the earth, and their armies were assembled to make war with the one sitting on the horse and his army. So we know this is the final battle. They think they're getting ready to come against Yahusha. Okay. And the beast was seized, and with this one, the false prophet doing signs before, by which he led astray those having been received the mark of the beast, and those worshiping his image. The two were thrown alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone. And the rest were killed. Look at how the rest were killed. And I said, hallelujah. The rest were killed. Check this out. The rest were killed with the sword of the one. You know who this one is, Yahusha, sitting on the horse. And where's this sword? The sword having gone forth from his mouth. All the birds were filled from their flesh. So I want you to think about this. And my spirit was quickened. So when you're thinking of a sword, you probably picturing a sword coming out of his mouth. No, this is the sword that he used to smite the nation. What is the sword of the spirit? Didn't he say that the word of Yah in Ephesians chapter 6 is the sword? All he did was speak it. He used the word of Yah to smite the nation. This is why Satan does not want you to pray. Because when you go into spiritual warfare to battle, okay, you can't kill them. See, he says you battle not against flesh and blood. We're dealing with principalities and rulers and high places. We're not dealing with flesh and blood. You can't fight demons with a sword. Yahusha battled and smited the nation. He said the rest was with the sword that came from his mouth. What is the sword of the spirit? The word of Yah is the sword of the spirit. And you use your mouth to speak the word of Yah. That is your sword. That's how we kill demons. There have been people who have dealt with demons and have smite demons through the use of the word of Yah. I've had to use it. Do you understand? How do you think you cast out, how demons come out? Because you laying hands on people and you are using your sword, that word of Yah that's coming out of your mouth. Okay, he's giving you authority to tread on snakes and scorpions and giving you all the power over the enemy. And he says nothing by any means shall harm you. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. The word of Yah, the sword that's coming out of Yahushua's mouth to smite the nations in his final battle is literally the word of Yah. The word of Yah is living and active. It has the ability to reveal yourself to yourself. The word of Yah is razor sharp. It cuts deeply to the joints. Okay, it cuts to the core. It cuts to the bone. It cuts to the soul. There are no dull or blunt verses with the word of Yah. His word exposes the motivation behind people action. His word, the word of Yah, is able to hold court and to preside over our souls. His word judges our thoughts. His word renders verdicts. Hallelujah. Yah has said that his judgment has begun. He is doing his work in the earth right now. When Yahusha comes back to judge, he's not coming back as a sweet little lamb. He's coming back with the host of heaven, and he will have a sharp sickle in his hand to divide. He is going to cut off mother against daughter. He's going to have man against his father, daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. Yahusha said in Matthew 10:34, do not assume that I have come to bring sweet peace. He said, I come to bring a sword. He is coming back to bring a sword. You're going to be mother against daughter, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, father against son. This is about the separation. He's not coming back as no sweet little lamb. He said, I'm not coming back to bring peace. I'm coming with a sword to divide, to when they say send that sickle and reap, that means to cut, to divide, to cut off. Many of you right now, as we read earlier, that great light was shown to Israel. Many of you, that light has been shown to you. That light is Yahusha, and then you are blocking out the light. There are many of you that light is shown in you, and you are blocking out the light. Yah's pruning, as I said earlier, his pruning is not meant to hurt us. His purging is meant to keep, to remove the things from us that cause us to not operate at full capacity. David said in Psalms 51, purge me with hyssop and I shall be clean. Wash me, he said, and I will be whiter than snow. When you think about a sickle is a pruning hook, okay? Yah, as a vine dresser of his vineyard, and Israel is his vineyard, he is removing the things from our lives that will stunt, that will stifle, that will hinder our growth. He right now is separating his people, okay? His people from the things that will cause them to bust hell wide open. This message and the things that are being revealed to you today, you cannot take it as a light thing. Do not take what is being shown to you as a light thing. Yah, as I said earlier, he has standards and we have an inheritance. He showed me earlier during the 6 weeks that you have a beautiful inheritance that is falling on pleasant places. We have to reclaim our birthright. We have an inheritance by birthright that belongs to us by birthright and by being the firstborn again believers that he is going to present as the bride to his son. As born again believers, we have a birthright, we have a promise, and we cannot afford to allow the enemy to steal our birthright. Do not allow Satan to steal your birthright. Do not allow him to steal your blessing and the promise that belongs to you. Do not go back, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like, no matter how much it hurts. Do not give up on the promise. That's what Yah wants me to tell you. Do not abort what Yah is birthing forth in you. Continue preparing. Continue with the plan. Your husband, Yahushua HaMashiach, is on the other side of your affliction. He's on the other side of your persecution. He's on the other side of your long suffering. He's on the other side of everything that you will have to give up in this world to serve him. Do not give up. Do not stop. Keep striving. Keep waiting. Keep enduring. Keep hoping. Believe in him. Trust in him. Surrender to him. Wait on him. Those who wait on him shall not be ashamed. Hallelujah. I cast down the lies of the enemy right now in the name of Yahushua. You are no longer a barren woman, Israel. You are fruitful. Just yield and submit your life to Yahushua and then wait on him. See the mighty hand of Yah work. You will give birth to the promise because those in Yahushua are not barren. If Yah promised it, he will fulfill it. Do not believe the evil report. Do not go back. Thank the Father Yah for giving you an appetite for the things that have been rejected and refused by the world. If the world hates it, then you love it. If the world accepts it, you reject it. If the world upholds it and promotes it, you deny it and you protest against it. Father Yah, your people whom you have called, hallelujah, let them hear your voice. Let them receive the message that your servant has delivered. And I am done, sis. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. What a prophetic message that Yah has poured into you over the 6 weeks. I'm just in so much awe of what he revealed to you. I'm at lost of words of all the pictures that you have shown and all of the scriptures you have shared. But I just starting out and talking about that wilderness, just recapping from the last lesson, and showing that you have a choice to be made. It's a choice to be made. And I love how you went to Numbers. I told you I was reading that book, and it just brought me back when y'all showed me, when they sent out that evil report and how he gave them each day that they spied out. Each day that they spied out, that's why they got 40 years in the wilderness. Because they came back, and each day they was there, that was their punishment. And I'm just in awe of that, and just going over what milk, that fatness, the choice stood out so much to me. This whole lesson is about a choice and a decision. And like you said, it's time sensitive. And if you don't make your choice, choose this day who you're going to serve, it can cost you your salvation. And so I love how you brought in and you recapped on the wilderness and brought in Numbers 13 as well as 14, in house. Still, you talked about honey as sweet, and then you brought in still how it's the guide, rest, comfortable, ease, and quiet. As far as it was related to when Caleb spoke about he's still, he pressed forward and he was like, no, I believe in Yah's word and we're gonna steal. But then we have those that of course wanted to choose and appoint a leader to return back to Egypt. And we know that cost them, and then going into part 1, don't go back, and just knowing that where Yah brought you from. And I love how you talked about going back to Egypt and how our people are giving, false doctrine on moving, or just false speaking on going back to Egypt, and thinking that they're going to escape the punishment that's coming to
Mhm.
Babylon. You're not escaping because the whole world is under
Yeah, the
Yah's
whole earth. Yeah,
judgment.
that's why I'm like, where are you
The
going to escape? All
whole,
the nations going to be under one rulership. So I'm
yes,
like, if you read the Bible, that's why people have to stop listening to people and then
yes,
and know and be able to hear the voice of Yah for yourself and be led
yes,
by His Spirit.
yeah, absolutely,
Because they talk themselves right out of their salvation. They listened to that evil report and they talked
absolutely,
up that was done. That was it. That was the 10th time, and that was their grace that ran out
yes,
at that
yes,
point. And that's what I said. If Satan could talk angels out of heaven, and he talked
absolutely,
Adam and Eve out of their eternity, what do you think?
yes,
You are a piece of cake.
right.
Me right now can allow somebody to talk you right out of your
Mm-hmm.
salvation, talking about um that Yahusha wasn't born of the set apart spirit, that
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't born of a virgin, that you listening to people that have you sometimes you can deep yourself out of your salvation.
Absolutely,
It's
absolutely,
in the simple things in scripture.
absolutely, absolutely. Y'all say don't have no other guys before you. Yet we still have some believers that want to keep celebrating birthdays and holidays and just wickedness of this world. You know what I'm saying? So who you uphold, what you uphold is who you serve. You can't have two masters. It's only one. It's only one. Um, and then just going into the harp and the bow and that revelation of the strings, I was just in so awe of the word remnant, that how it relates to string. I was just like, wow, Yah is constantly reconnecting previous lessons to this
Mm-hmm.
lessons, and just knowing that the string, it means Yah's remnant, and then how you talked about and how it relates to the sickle, the final harvest. I was just in awe of that. And when you gave the prophetic, cherub warnings of how judgment is coming to the earth and next Babylon, and then finally to those that accept the mark of the beast. But what I was just I'm gonna fast forward to the two harvests that you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And in the harvest, you mentioned the clouds and Yah's presence. And I shared with you during the steadfast challenge that I had. I believe it was a dream. And I was waking out of the dream, but I just saw clouds just enclosed and wrapped around me. And I didn't know what was going on. And I mean, when you said cloud represents the presence of Yah, my spirit was quick, and I was like, wow, Yah was just showing me that he was in my presence, and it's just so awing just to know, because sometimes we don't hear from him,
Mm-hmm.
and we wonder, are we on the right track? Am I doing something wrong? But then when he have others to confirm things, I mean, it just brought like joy to my heart. And I just give praise to Yah for that.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. But then just knowing that the grain harvest is for those that string the heart, that string for Yah's remnant people. And then the second harvest of the grape, and how you went back to those are the grapes, and how you related to Isaiah, back to that choice vine that like stood out so much. It was like you can really see the fruition of what the wrath of Yah and how it's going to occur. You understand what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
I just love it. And then of course the sickle connection, because I always knew that sickle cell was, that sickling of the cell, and I knew it caused anemia, but I didn't know that it meant cutting, and I didn't know that it cuts off that oxygen. And when you showed the pictures, and this is why I'm so in awe with Yah and how he created us, like the veins, how it looked like the tree of life, our women's breasts, the alveolus and things look like the placenta. Like it's like
it does.
so.
The placenta has a tree of life in it.
Yes. Our lungs. Yes. Our
everything.
lungs.
Yes, got the tree. Yes, we got life all in us.
Yes. And when we breathe his name. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm just so in awe, yeah. We don't even realize how precious we are.
Yes.
We don't realize how precious life is. And and I hate to mention this, but and then you go and then you want to choose, be a pro-choice. You know what I'm saying?
Don't hate to mention it. It need to be mentioned.
Yes.
People being
yes.
Like it. We need to stand up for what is right.
Right. Yes. You supposed to be pro-life.
The hand of Yah is at work. That only hand of Yah could overturn abortion and prayer in schools and put it back. The Yah said, "I'm done with y'all."
Yes. And I was so happy. And then, here come Biden talking about he gonna send an executive order. And I'm like, your executive order doesn't mean anything, because when Yah judgments hit, it's final.
Yeah, people are mad, and these are people who are in the church mad because they don't have a right to kill. That's what but right now I told you Roe versus Wade and all of this with this revealing the hearts. He is allowing these things to happen so that you can, that you're his servants in the earth can, and the wicked, the tares can be exposed. Right now, the tares are being exposed. There are many people who for those of you who are still in church, there's many people who are in church who are going to assemblies. These people that you, hallelujah, praise the Lord. Them. They over there mad about Roe versus Wade being overturned. The tares are being revealed. Those who he allowed to grow up and be in your presence with you. His word, like I said, it cuts, it reveals,
it does,
it renders verdicts and judgment. It is right now revealing the hearts of many people that whom Yah, once he reveals it to you, is going to want you to separate from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you talked, how Yah led you to do the Hebrew letter Zion, and how it represents that symbol of sickling, like to cut off, to separate, to slice.
Yeah, the iron is Zion.
Yes.
And also the Zion too. The looks like the 7. And then
the Zion.
And then the iron, understanding, see.
Yes.
And then the coup right there, that set it off. 19, COVID-19. When I saw that,
I was like,
19 is the number of judgment, and that's why the tree was cut down. And then when I saw that harp in the middle of the tree,
I was just like, and I couldn't believe all of this. I was like,
did you see the harp? Did you see it?
I saw it. So what I'm saying is, if you would have just talked to me and say, hey, this is what I saw, I would have been like, coming from you, I would believe you. But I'm saying others be like, yeah, right. But when you had the pictures, I'm telling you, when you had the pictures, it set it off. Of the pictures of the Kuf, with the horizon and the sun. Because when I saw the line go through, the circle the line go through, I was like, okay, I remember the horizon and how it divides. But just knowing that it represents time and a divide and to gather, and the number 100 means full and perfection and power. I was just oh my goodness, Yah. And then the number 19, when you just start representing, like when you just went over like how it represents the fullness of the fruits, fullness of time, the number of judgment, how you brought in Sodom and Gomorrah with Genesis, and then the book of Obadiah against Edom. And then when you said COVID-19, I said, get out of here. Right? Yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah.
Right.
You can't be no clear, okay?
No.
You can't be no clear. And then
that was it.
that was it. And
Mm.
then to go forward to the precept 2, just talking about that final judgment, you know, and Revelations, you know, Matthew 13 and 30, and then you went into Revelations, the book of Revelations 19. And what really stood out to me is in the end, and when you put up the sword of the Spirit, when Yahusha is going to just speak Yah's word, because he is the word of Yah, and they just gonna all fall dead, just fall dead. Okay, he ain't gotta cut you, slice you with a.
Oh, that's how we fight.
Yes.
I know people said they had dreams and demons attacking them, and they move back like they got shot.
And I'm gonna say this to you because yesterday, Yah was speaking in my spirit. Pray. Prayer is the answer. Pray. Like Yah's word, and it, because my spirit was quickened when you got to the spirit, and like whatever you're going through, whatever you experiencing, whatever, the word of Yah will cut it like a sword.
It is. Pray.
And
that's why
the reason
don't want you to pray.
Right, because the enemy will get you in a mode like you have so much going on. He will get you to the place where you will put your sword down. But you have to remember that your sword is your battle weapon. The word of Yah is your battle weapon. And I'm just in awe of this whole lesson. And Yah is truly trying to get us to, as you say, reclaim your birthright. He is truly trying to prepare you to be that bride that he's offering, that gift to you, his son that he sent to die for you. He is offering you his gift of salvation.
A chance at life, everlasting life.
Everlasting life.
Yes.
A life that Adam and Eve once had a choice at. Eternal, because they was immortal. You know what I'm saying? But it's up to us to make that choice while you still have breath in your body, just like right now. So don't think for a second, because it can, like you said, it can go right after I end. You know what I'm saying? You never know when your time is up. But Yahusha is coming back, and we have to be ready as a prepared bride, not as a getting ready bride, the ones that was foolish, that thought they had some time, and then they had to hurry up and go out and buy oil and miss their groom, you know, the bridegroom.
They didn't have no desire, and that's what that
right.
They
Absolutely.
And one thing I want to say before we end this, is Eden. We think about the Garden of Eden, and I remember the iron is the picture of the eye is the 16th letter. So Eden, as in the Garden of Eden, is Ayin Dalet Nun. Okay, the Ayin is the eye, Dalet is the door, Nun is the life or the sea, and that means see the door of life or see the pathway to life. And in that Dalet Nun is Dan, and Dan is said in the scripture means to judge.
Yes.
Yes. So I wanted to share that. And something else, look what happened when I cooked breakfast during the 6th week. Look at the omelet. I did not do this. I just put the egg in there. Are you seeing this? I made some turkey bacon and I made me a veggie omelet. And you know, once you pour it in there, the egg takes its own shape. Yeah. And Yah said, look at this. And I said, that's the heart. Look at this.
Yes.
It was shaped on its own in the shape of the harp. I said, Yah, but see, this is why you have to have a personal relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to know Yah. You have to know how, and that's why, you know, spending time with him and being able to be sensitive to hearing his voice. You have to get to know him for yourself.
Yeah.
You have to read the word of Yah for yourself. You have to study to show yourself approved. Because if you don't know his voice, if you only know his voice through others and through what other people are telling you, but you don't know because you don't read, you don't study, you don't pray. All these things that you saw today, this has been birthed forth through prayer, through praise, through worship, through reading, through revelations. Because once you say you draw near to him, he says, I will draw near to
you.
Yeah. It was so many things today that this was just like
yeah.
And
I could see why you were so overwhelmed when you was telling me, like, to putting it together.
Yeah,
like,
it was a lot.
Yes.
And the enemy tried to stop this from going forward because I lost some information. My computer decided it wanted to go black. I heard a loud noise. And I didn't get to bed till almost 3 o'clock in the morning because once I got done around 10 something, 11, I hear a loud noise and my computer go black. And then I cut it back on and I had lost a lot of my information. I had to stay up for another 4 hours finishing, but I was determined to finish this because the enemy did not want someone to hear this message today. So let's give Yah praise for allowing
hallelujah. Hallelujah.
So having said that, we pray that you will enjoy the rest of your Sabbath. We know this was a long teaching, but I know that this is going to edify and bless someone. Take heed to this message. This is a prophetic message. If there's things you know you need to repent of, do it now, because Yah said that I have come and I will do my work in this earth. He is doing his work in the earth. You're seeing it everywhere. And having said that, enjoy the rest of your Sabbath. Shabbat shalom.
Surround me in your arms, in your sweet embrace. Wrap me in your arms, in your arms. Surround me in your arms, in your sweet embrace. 'Cause I am your baby, your special baby. Surround me in your arms, in your sweet embrace. Surround me in your arms, in your sweet embrace. I am your baby, your personal baby. Wrap me in your arms. I can't get enough of your love. I can't get enough of your love. I can't get enough of your love. I'll never get enough of your love. You're sweet, 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 sweet. That you were mindful of me. Oh, am I? Oh, am I? That you were mindful of me. You say I'm the apple of your eyes. The thought that fills your heart. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? That you are mindful of me.
As the deer pants for the water, so my soul longs after you. You're the one who satisfies me. You're the one who makes me whole. As the deer pants for the water, so my soul longs after you. You're the one who satisfies whole. You're the one who makes me whole. As the deer pants for the waters, you're the one who satisfies me. Every hunger, every thirst, you satisfy. Every hunger, every thirst, living water, bread of life. You're the one who satisfies me. Every hunger, every thirst, my heart longs for you. 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 Oh, my heart will rest in you. My heart will stay in you. Oh, I remain in you. Living water, bread of life. You're the one who satisfies me.